Chapter 1887. The sixth pure Seacone Lord was the middle stage of the three celestial lords, the main sect. The other two celestial lords were the Void Spirit Kai Lord and the Chu Shang Si Lu Lord. In Taoism, the three celestial lords corresponded to heaven, earth, and man. They were also known as essence, chi, and spirit. Heaven was empty, earth was blue, and man was dust. The sixth pure Seacone Lord belonged to man and was in charge of defense. This god's decree was to use external chi to temporarily buff one's body. The talisman ignited in the air, turning into a wisp of smoke and dissipating. The smoke turned into a faint shadow in the air and instantly entered Yangguo's body. After God's decree was done, Yangguo didn't stop. He cast a second buff. Chun Zhao picked up the phone again. "Old Zhang, your disciple's spell looks really cool. How much strength do I need to use?" "I don't know." "Chun Zhao, don't kill my disciple, or I'll never let you off. I don't know how to control my strength. I'm not confident." "Chun Zhao, I have a false life substitute talisman. I'll give it to you. I'll try to control my strength." Chun Zhao glanced at Yangguo and put away the phone. "Done?" By now, Yangguo had already cast 5 defensive spells. "Come." Yangguo crooked his finger. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. "Pooh, ugh." Yangguo spat out a mouthful of blood. Immediately, a huge force pierced through Yangguo's body. Like a cannonball, Yangguo flew out of the cliff in an arc. It had been a long time since Chun Zhao had touched such solid flesh with his fist. He'd used 30% of his normal strength in that punch. He didn't dare to use too much strength, but it seemed that Yangguo could take at least 50% of his strength. Of course, even 30% of his strength was enough to heavily injure Yangguo. Yangguo flew more than 100 meters in the air. Then he fell into the sea with a splash. Yangguo floated on the surface of the sea, just like that. Right now, Yangguo had completely lost consciousness. His body and mind were both injured. Chun Zhao's punch had dazed him. He'd never been injured like this before. No one had been able to break through his defense with 1 punch. Swish, 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 swish. Just then, Yangguo's phone rang. Yangguo took out his phone slowly. "Boy, how was it? Did you feel good?" Zhang Tianyi's gloating tone gave Yangguo another blow. "Grandmaster, you already knew? I warned you long ago, but you didn't listen. Even I don't dare to take a punch from Chun Zhao. Where did you get the courage to fight him? I don't look for excuses. Since you're willing to bet, you have to accept your loss. Whatever you lost to him, you have to fulfill your promise honestly." Zhang Tianyi believed that Chun Zhao would give him face and not make things too difficult for his immature disciple. But with Chun Zhao's bad personality, if he didn't get anything from Yangguo, he probably wouldn't give Yangguo anything good either. Yangguo felt stifled. He now understood what it meant to be a pretentious prick. Unfortunately, he was the one who started it. Now, he had to swallow this bitter pill himself. Yangguo returned to the Mingyue villa and sat on the ground dejectedly. Chun Zhao had a smile on his face. "I won just now, right?" "You win." Although Yangguo was very unwilling, he still didn't want to admit defeat. Yangguo wasn't satisfied, but he could only accept it. A loss was a loss. "I didn't use my real power," Yangguo added. Yangguo added, "That was a moment of carelessness. Otherwise, you definitely wouldn't have been able to break through my defense. Come, I'll give you another chance. Use your real power and let's fight again." Chun Zhao didn't mind at all. He'd roughly tested Yangguo's strength with that one sentence. One had to admit that Yangguo's defense was very shocking. He was even stronger than the dragons Chun Zhao knew. Chun Zhao's punch could kill a dragon in an instant. But he only injured Yangguo. Chun Zhao didn't know how strong Yangguo was, but his defense was ridiculously strong. Hearing Chun Zhao's words, Yangguo cursed inwardly. Chun Zhao didn't give him any face at all. He was just being polite. In the end, Chun Zhao didn't even give him a chance. "I'm injured. After I recover, I'll fight you again." Yangguo turned to leave. "Which room am I in?" "I'll take you there." Chun Zhao brought Yangguo to the door. "This is your room." Yangguo pushed the door open and entered. 3 seconds later, Yangguo ran out of the room pathetically. "Chun Zhao, you're too much." "What's wrong?" "Rayleigh's in the room." "Perfect. I'll create a chance for you." I'm a man with a family. You don't even know how to enjoy having multiple partners. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. Then you could stay opposite. At night, Chen Zhao waited until everyone was asleep before rising into the sky again. When he reached a certain height, he used heaven and man coexistence. Chen Zhao's power kept spreading. The entire small world was enveloped in the swirling air currents. There were no clouds in the sky, so no matter how fast the air flowed, there wouldn't be any weather effects. The yin-yang fish in Chen Zhao's body kept spinning and growing stronger. However, after forming the yin-yang fish and stabilizing it, his cultivation speed slowed down. Every day, he would cultivate until the sun appeared at the end of the sky. Of course, it was much faster to see the sun from tens of thousands of meters in the sky than on the ground. Chen Zhao returned to the ground and started cultivating, absorbing and converting immortal power. Chen Zhao's cultivation was divided into two parts. The first was to absorb cosmic rays and cultivate yin energy. Then he would absorb the spiritual qi in the world and convert it into immortal power, cultivating yang energy. Mingwei Villa had the immortal's inner core that Old Turtle had left behind, so Chen Zhao could directly absorb the immortal power from it and convert it into his own. This process was much faster than directly absorbing the spiritual qi in the world and converting it into immortal power. After a day of cultivation, it was almost time for breakfast. Early in the morning, Chen Zhao saw Yang Guo walk out of the room in high spirits. Looks like you've recovered well. Chen Zhao glanced at Yang Guo. Of course, no matter how serious my injuries are, I can completely recover in 3 days. Last night's minor injuries are enough for me to recover in 1 night, Yang Guo said proudly. What's for breakfast? Youtiao and soy milk. Do you want it? You can eat youtiao and soy milk here. Yang Guo asked in surprise. If you want to eat, help yourself. I won't help you get it. Yang Guo came and left in a hurry. He only came back with breakfast. Just then, Lily also woke up. Looking at her face, she didn't seem to have slept well last night. This was understandable. After all, to her, this place was like hell. It was filled with a demonic aura. Chapter 1888. The last thing Chen Zhao's family would do was give in to outsiders. Chen Zhao would protect Riley, but he wouldn't give in to her. If she wanted to stay, she could stay. If not, she could leave. Reluctantly, Riley sat down for breakfast. Chen Zhao's family frolicked at the breakfast table. Riley didn't say anything. Portia was here to get free food and drinks again. Boss, who are they? Friends. Portia walked over to Yang Guo and Riley. Hi, I'm Portia. Hi. Yang Guo shook hand with Portia. Riley was a silent person. She didn't say anything. Portia didn't mind either. She was used to all kinds of strange people in Chen Zhao's family. Not long after Fei Lai went to work, Denver and Alex came. Mr. Chen, long time no see, Denver greeted Chen Zhao. Here's this month's financial report. Take a look. Chen Zhao always had a headache with numbers. After seeing the signature and stamp of the finance department, he continued reading. Chen Zhao had Ash Roford move from the sales department to the finance department. He was Chen Zhao's man, so he could be Chen Zhao's spy. It wasn't that Chen Zhao didn't trust Denver, even though he'd given him almost all the power. However, he still had to do the necessary financial reconciliation. Ash Roford was still on parole, but according to the work the company had given him and the evaluation report, his original 1-year sentence was reduced to half a year. Apparently, after his sentence was over, he planned to fight for custody of his daughter. When he divorced his wife, he'd had problems with his finances and work. Because of that, he'd lost custody of his daughter. Coupled with the kidnapping at the airport, he'd been convicted for endangering public safety. He didn't even have visitation rights or the right to leave the country. But with Chen Zhao's help, his life was back on track. So, Ash Roford was completely loyal to Chen Zhao now. It was common practice for a shareholder to send a financial officer to the company. Denver wouldn't be unhappy because of this. Last month's profit seems to have increased again, Chen Zhao said. Yes, because of the increase in production, the market share has increased and the cost has been greatly reduced. That's why the profits are so high. Denver explained. However, This is basically the highest profit we can achieve with our current production. Our company's beer production is still a problem. We can't solve the problem of production for now. After all, the water used is from Mirror Lake. Mirror Lake can't be drained. Denver also understood this logic. In addition, Dash and Beer was now popular, largely because of hunger marketing. Dash and Beer was always in short supply when it came to market demand. As a result, Dash and Beer would often be sold out within 4 to 5 days. For the next few days, they were out of stock. What's our current plan for beer? Chen Zhao asked. What we need to do now is to maintain the market share, stabilize the market, and increase the advertising, Denver said. Although Dash and Beer was very popular, almost everyone knew about it. However, for beverage products, advertising has always been indispensable. For example, the largest cola company in the past once thought that their product was famous enough, so they stopped investing in advertising for a year. In the end, the product sales dropped by 60% that year. It was also the only time that the second cola brand surpassed the first in sales. Denver also focused on stability. As always, Chen Zhao supported Denver's decision. As long as Denver didn't make any stupid decisions, Chen Zhao wouldn't interfere with his company's management and development strategy. Chen Zhao's income last month was $150 million. After reading it, he gave the bill to Alex. She was in charge of checking the accounts and legal verification. Alex glanced at the number on the bill and grinned. A while ago, she thought that Chen Zhao's customized yacht was too extravagant. Now, she felt that Chen Zhao's money came too easily. Auntie Alex. Little Jerlin ran in from outside and jumped onto Alex's body. Alex picked up little Jerlin and teased her. Little Jerlin, you've grown heavier again. Are you planning to become a big fatty? No, I'm growing taller. Plus, I swim every day. Alex wasn't worried about Jerlin's growth at all. Chen Zhao was indeed very good at children's growth. Jerlin wasn't the only one who was growing well. The other children were all rosy and energetic too. Auntie, hug. Little Larissa followed Alex's lead and reached out for a hug as well. Alex picked them up one by one. Little Larissa still remembers me? Little Larissa took out a lollipop from her pocket. Auntie, eat. The candy Chen Zhao gave Jerlin and Larissa were all lollipops like this. If they choked on it, they could pull out immediately. The other children and even the pets could handle it. If it was a regular candy, it would be very troublesome if they choked on it. Children like to eat sweets, mainly because they needed it for growth. As long as they didn't overeat, Chen Zhao wouldn't stop them. Plus, it wasn't like the family didn't have money. Denver was a workaholic, so he went back to the company after checking the accounts. Alex stayed to play with the children. Chen, you said last time that there's a big project next year. As long as I have the money, you'll let me in. Is that true? You have money? Chen Zhao turned his head and looked at Alex. I don't, but you do. Alex looked at Chen Zhao. I'll borrow some money at the bank's interest rate. How much do you want? 500 million, Alex said. Okay. Chen Zhao nodded. To put it simply, the project in Chen Zhao's plan was to share the benefits and share the profits equally. If Chen Zhao was alone, he definitely couldn't make the project big. In front of such huge benefits, everyone would be jealous. Both the government and the industry would suppress him. The best choice was to share the benefits equally. There was strength in numbers. Apart from being Chen Zhao's family, Alex also had a huge amount of legal resources. This was also the power Chen Zhao needed. So, Chen Zhao had no reason to reject Alex's participation. It was just borrowing money. Apart from depreciating, it had no other use. So, if the bank could borrow money, he could do it too. Portia was already cursing Chen Zhao's monthly income of more than 100 million. She ate her sandwich hatefully, as if she wanted to make Chen Zhao poor. Chapter 1889. Congratulations, boss. You've made a lot of money again. Portia licked her lips as she walked over. He planned to say a few good words and see if he could erase the debt. If you want to borrow money, you can, according to the bank's interest rate. If you want to go back on your word, you can jump into the sea. What do you want to talk to me about? It's fine. Portia decisively turned around and left. Sure enough, he was thinking too much. He was too stupid to talk about money with Chen Zhao. Just then, Portia's phone rang. Portia picked up the phone and handed it to Chun Zhao. "Boss, it's a call from Seagate Yachts." "Hey, it's Chun Zhao." Chun Zhao took the phone. The person who called was Oliver Lurby. They could be considered old acquaintances. "Mr. Chun, the headquarters sent a message saying that the construction of your yacht has begun. The higher-ups would like to invite you to visit the headquarters and check on the progress of the yacht." As an important client of Seagate, the company had also secretly investigated his assets. However, because Mountain Beer wasn't listed, Seagate didn't know his exact assets. But through the bank, they knew that Chun Zhao had some cash. In terms of net worth, let's not talk about the hidden tycoons in this world. He wasn't even in the top 30 on the Forbes list. But in terms of cash, Chun Zhao was definitely in the top 10. Moreover, Chun Zhao's money had entered the bank account openly. This meant that Chun Zhao's money came from a legitimate source. If it was that kind of black money or illegal income, it would not be easy for them to find out. Because of this, the executives of Seagate Yachts wanted to get close to Chun Zhao. "I don't have time recently," Chun Zhao said. "Mr. Chun, you don't have to reject me so quickly. There's still a long time before the yacht is built anyway. Our company headquarters welcomes you at any time." "Okay, if I have time, I'll go." Chun Zhao didn't make any promises. "Boss, Italy is quite interesting, especially Rome. There are many scenic spots. Do you want to go? If you want to go, then go. Also, help me check the progress of my yacht construction." I think I'll pass." Portia hurriedly refused. Italy could be said to be a major producer of luxury goods. This country didn't have much else, but it had a lot of luxury brands. Portia didn't dare to imagine whether she would lose her mind if she went to Italy. It was a repeat of what had happened in Tokyo, Japan. When she was in Tokyo, Japan, she had already owed a huge sum of money. If he went to Italy again, he would definitely have to file for bankruptcy. If Chun Zhao wanted to go, she could go with him. But if she went alone, she could probably sell herself in Italy. Ignoring the babbling Portia, Chun Zhao changed into his swimming trunks and went to exercise. At the same time, on the outskirts of the Bright Moon Villa, a man holding an optical telescope stood in the forest on a steep slope. There were two other people standing beside this person. They were the man and woman who had attacked Lily and Yonghua last night. "How is it, Deuce?" "No, we can't barge in. That manor is very dangerous." Deuce shook his head. "Even if all of us work together, it won't work." "No," Dose said with certainty. "The master there is very powerful. He is not on the same level as us." The woman who was good at fighting frowned and said, "Then use that thing." Deuce shook his head again. "The Holy Spear is still unable to unleash its true power. It won't be of any use against an enemy like that." "This won't do, that won't do. What should I do?" Deuce suddenly put away the telescope. The other two looked at Deuce in surprise. "What's wrong?" "We've been discovered," Deuce said seriously. "Let's go." The other two were doubtful about Deuce. However, they still obeyed his order and left. "Deuce, we are at least 5 kilometers from the coastline. How can we be discovered?" "I don't know." Deuce's expression was serious. "That Asian is very powerful. Even from so far away, he is still looking in this direction." Chun Zhao had indeed discovered that someone was watching him. However, he had only discovered the exact direction. The person had reacted quickly. Also, because it was a green mountain and the person was hiding in the forest, Chun Zhao had not been able to capture the person's tracks immediately. Chun Zhao's small world was only 1,000 meters in diameter. The person was hiding more than 1,000 meters away. Chun Zhao could not pinpoint the exact location. If it was within the small world, then anyone who entered would be able to sense it. Chun Zhao could sense their every move. However, the gaze was very unfamiliar. It was probably not someone Chun Zhao knew. Therefore, it was very likely that the person was here for Lily and Yonghua. "Deuce, we've proposed a few plans, but you've rejected all of them. What do you think we should do?" "Spirit Fox, I'm not opposing you on purpose, but it's too risky. I can sense how dangerous that man is. If we choose to attack forcefully, we might incur a fierce counterattack. This is North America. How strong can there be? In the last 2 battles of the Holy Glory, not even a single spiritualist from North America participated. Can this kind of magic desert really produce any strong people?" Don't underestimate any region, Deuce said calmly. You never know how many terrifying existences are hidden in the dark. Then what do you think we should do? Spirit Fox asked, dissatisfied. No one can stay in one place forever, Deuce said. That Asian can't, and neither can our target. We just have to wait patiently. I don't like waiting. Deuce looked at the other person. Beast, we don't have to take the risk. However, Beast did not think so. Beast held a long object wrapped in white cloth in his hand. It looked like some kind of weapon. The white cloth was stained with blood. The holy spear has already sucked the blood of dozens of spiritualists. It can kill anyone now. I don't think we should hold back for an Asian. Deuce glanced at Beast. If you think I'm wrong, you can try. Beast and Deuce looked at Spirit Fox. Spirit Fox hesitated, but in the end, she still chose to support Beast. She was also more inclined to attack directly instead of holding back and running away. Deuce was somewhat disappointed with the two's choices. However, he clearly did not intend to continue persuading them. I hope you won't regret your choices. Deuce turned and left. Spirit Fox and Beast exchanged glances. Beast really wanted to stab Deuce in the back. Chapter 1890. Deuce stopped in his tracks again. Don't try to do anything behind my back. I can see it. I'm also one of the wielder of the Holy Spear, so the Spear of Longinus is useless against me. Deuce was warning the two of them. The Holy Spear wrapped in white cloth in Beast's hand felt warm. Although the Holy Spear was called the Holy Spear, it was more like a demon's weapon. The more blood it sucked, the stronger it became. You better be careful. This Holy Spear might not be the Spear of Longinus. As for whether it has the ability to kill gods, no one can be sure, Deuce warned. With that, Deuce strode away, no longer caring about his two companions. Beast and Spirit Fox looked at each other. The Spear of Longinus. The legendary Holy Spear. The weapon that had stabbed YS and was stained with the blood of gods. It was a coincidence that Beast and Spirit Fox had obtained this weapon. It was as if a mysterious hand had personally delivered the sacred spear into their hands. This holy spear did not belong to any of them. Instead, it was shared among the three of them. However, if one of them gave it up, they would lose the right to own it. Ever since the holy spear fell into their hands, they started killing. The holy spear would tell them who to kill. With each kill, the holy spear's power would increase slightly. In the beginning, the spiritualists they killed were weak, incompetent, and unknown spiritualists. But as time passed, the spiritualists they killed became stronger and stronger. Their power also increased with the growth of the Holy Spear. In a few years, they had killed dozens of spiritualists. The Holy Spear had given them different powers. This time, the target that the Holy Spear wanted them to kill was Lily. Beast and Spirit Fox were both very aggressive. Moreover, as their strength continued to grow, their ambitions were also further increased. But the difference was that Deuce had always been calm. Even if he was constantly gaining power from the Holy Spear, he still kept his cool. He had hinted to Spirit Fox and Beast many times. This was not the real Spear of Longinus. The legendary Holy Spear would not ask them to kill people continuously. Moreover, most of the people they had killed were not bad people. Some of the spiritualists that they had killed could even be considered good people. But Spirit Fox and Beast still firmly believed that. The spiritualists that they had killed had sins that outsiders did not know about. Killing them was actually putting them on trial. They represented the will of the sacred spear, the will of God. They were the chosen and chosen apostles of God. Of course, most importantly, they were enjoying the extreme pleasure brought by the sacred spear. The kind of power that could easily make people stronger made them unable to stop. As they watched Dosei leave, they all sensed the message transmitted by the sacred spear. Deuce was no longer the wielder of the Holy Spear. Right now, there were only two wielders of the Holy Lance, Spirit Foxes and Wild Beasts. The power that had been bestowed upon Dose had also been stripped away. This power was divided among the Spirit Foxes and Wild Beasts. Once again, the two of them felt an even greater power, although it was one person's power that was split into two. However, after this power fused into their bodies, it made them more than twice as strong as before. The two of them were completely immersed in this power. An irresistible pleasure spread to every corner of their bodies. Their breaths were filled with pleasure. His choice was indeed correct. That was foolish of Deucer. He actually chose to give up his identity as the holder of the sacred spear. As the spirit fox and wild beast grew stronger, the two of them became more confident about their next target. As expected, Deuce looked at his hands. It did not feel good to have his power stripped away. Deuce could not get used to this feeling of vanity. However, his choice today was also his first attempt. Compared to the spirit fox and wild beast, Deuce was very cautious. He wanted to be sure. If he gave up on the sacred spear, what would happen? He also discovered that after the power was stripped away, his body had clearly appeared on an unknown bed. It seemed that this power had some sort of affinity with his body and soul. If he continued, the sacred spear would give him even more power. Then this power would fuse with his body and soul to a greater extent. At that time, he would no longer be able to escape the control of the sacred spear. At that time, they would no longer be wielders of the spear, but servants of the sacred spear. Those two pitiful fellows. They thought they had picked up a bargain. In fact, they only sped up the process. Deuce had always been suspicious, killing those spiritualists one after another. This could very well be a conspiracy. The sacred spear's origin was too strange. Deuce did not believe that there was such a thing as a free lunch in this world. However, the spirit fox and wild beast still did not believe him. Or rather, they actually had their own suspicions. They just did not want to face this possibility. Deuce did not pity those he had killed before. He just did not want to become a puppet for a weapon. Chun Zhao, Rayleigh isn't feeling well. Go and take a look. Yang Wu came again. Chun Zhao entered Rayleigh's bedroom and immediately felt that her breathing was very unstable. What's wrong with her? Her bloodline seems to be out of control. What if it's out of control? What do you think will happen? You mean she'll lose her mind and attack us randomly? That's right. In other words, I can kill her justifiably. Don't joke around, okay? I asked you to treat her, not to kill her. Chun Zhao walked to Rayleigh's side. Rayleigh lay on the bed. Under her skin, a faint white glow flowed through her blood vessels. Chun Zhao's heart suddenly jumped. Demons hated angelic crystals the most. Would angels also reject demonic crystals? Chun Zhao took out a demonic crystal. As expected, the moment the demonic crystal approached Rayleigh, Rayleigh's body convulsed instantly. She seemed to be in extreme pain, and under her skin, the blood vessels were restored. It seemed to be effective. The aura of the demonic crystal suppressed the angel's power. Of course, it was not accurate to say that it was suppressed. More accurately, it was scared away. Rayleigh's angelic bloodline rejected the aura of the demonic crystal. After the angelic bloodline faded, Rayleigh woke up. What's wrong with me? Rayleigh opened her eyes and looked at Chun Zhao and Yang Wu. Chun Zhao used the demonic crystal to approach Rayleigh again. This time, Rayleigh did not reject it. How do you feel about this? Chun Zhao asked. Disgust, Rayleigh said without hesitation. Even though the angelic bloodline had faded, the disgust from the bottom of her heart could not be completely eliminated. Chapter 1891. Rayleigh was under Chun Zhao's protection, but she knew one thing very well. She wouldn't stay here for long. Everything here didn't fit her. Chun Zhao's attitude toward her was also very cold. The atmosphere in Mingyue Villa was lively. The children were frolicking on the beach. But none of this had anything to do with her. Chun Zhao lay on the beach and sunbathed. Just then, Wes called. President, we'll leave for the African plains tomorrow. Got it. I'll go there tomorrow. By the way, President, there's another news. What? Last night, another cruise ship sank on the East Coast. Chun Zhao perked up. What's the exact location? The cruise started from Miami and went around the world. Its next stop was Boston, but when it passed longitude 32, 7552, latitude 69, 3554, it suddenly stopped and lost signal. The Coast Guard sent people to investigate and found that half of the cruise had sunk into the sea. It completely sank after 4 hours. No survivors were found nearby. There were 898 crew members and tourists on the cruise. That location should be very close to the Bermuda Sea, right? About 1,300 kilometers, West said. Demons did it? It's very likely, West said. What's the government's reaction? According to my sources, the higher-ups should be very anxious. After all, 2 cruises have sunk in a month. They've already asked the military to make a statement. What about the psionic team? Chen Zhao asked. President, it won't be that fast, West explained patiently. Not everyone in the upper echelons of the government knows about the existence of the supernatural world, and not everyone has any contact with it. Only a small number of people actually know about it, especially those who are involved in politics. They are not allowed to come into contact with the supernatural world, and they are even forbidden from knowing anything about it. Many things that are reported to them will be treated as terrorist attacks. Right now, the upper echelons of the government believe that the 2 shipwrecks are terrorist attacks, which is why they are reporting it to the military. Only a small portion of the military knows about the supernatural world, so it has to be passed down level by level until it reaches the ears of someone who knows about it or is in charge of it. Then, this person will plan the operation. It's hard to say how long it will take for it to reach the Anti-Terrorism Security Department. Furthermore, this incident happened on the East Coast, so it's not under the jurisdiction of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department. West paused for a moment before adding, Now, it depends on how strong the government's reaction is, as well as the level of threat from the relevant departments. If it's a high level, then it's very likely that we'll be the ones to take responsibility. After all, we're the department in charge of dealing with supernatural incidents. Given how much Mansari hates the supernatural organization, Chun Zhao said, he won't allow us to accept such a high-level mission. That's right, West said. So my guess is that they'll probably work together. The supernatural organization and the psionic team will work together. If there's trouble, we'll take all the responsibility because we're the official department. They could say that the psionic team is just supporting them, but if they get any results, they'll probably take the fruit. After all, we don't have much say in the higher-ups. Qin Zhao thought about it and said, then we'll be more forceful. Either we act on our own, or they do it on their own. President, I think it's acceptable. If they want to work together, we'll do as they wish. Their only request is to accept our command. If they refuse, we'll have a good reason to refuse. To West, there were always 2 sides to every coin. If they dare to accept our command, their lives will be in our hands. If they refuse our command during the mission, we'll even have the right to punish them. You guys will go to the African plains tomorrow. I'll be the only one there. If the government's order came during this time, Chun Zhao would have to face it alone. Chun Zhao thought about it and hoped that he could do it during this time. It was much more convenient for him to act alone than for the supernatural organization to work together. Plus, he didn't know anything about the situation in Bermuda. The only situation Chun Zhao knew was that there was a big demon inside. As for how strong it was, Chun Zhao couldn't be sure. From the few times he'd interacted with demons from Bermuda, Chun Zhao guessed that the big demon wasn't weak. Chun Zhao vaguely guessed that the demon wasn't weak. And if that great demon's strength was close to his, it might not be good for others to come. He didn't even have time to protect them. Yang, don't he go to work every day? Yang Guo wasn't used to Chun Zhao calling him that. But at least it was better than Guo. Yang Guo was very resistant to being called Guo. Yang Guo was very resistant to being called Guo. In the whole world, only Zhang Tianyi could call him that. It was not because Yang Guo was willing to accept it, but because Zhang Tianyi did not care about his personal feelings at all. I'm from Longhu Mountains, North American Resin Office. I'm responsible for contacting some people. Nothing will happen in a month. I'm envious of people like you who have nothing to do every day, lying down and receiving your salary. Yang Guo glanced at Chun Zhao. I'm more envious of you. You also lie down every day and earn more than $100 million every month. Do you think I'm happy? What are you unhappy about? No, I'm really happy. Yang Guo rolled his eyes. If you really envy me, then be my henchman. I'll give you twice the salary of Mount Longhu. Then forget it. I'm used to being undisciplined. Even if Yang Guo agreed, Chun Zhao was just asking casually. Chun Zhao didn't even know how to use him. Does your Mount Longhu have any unique techniques? Let me see. Since it's unique, Why do you think I can show it to you? Hey, old Zhang, your disciple is disobedient. Can I feed him to the sharks? Seeing that Chen Zhao was going to complain to Zhang Tianyi again, Yang Hua said disapprovingly, "The Grandmaster won't agree either. Your Grandmaster wants to talk to you." Chen Zhao handed the phone to Yang Hua. Yang Hua glanced at Chen Zhao and took the phone. "Grandmaster, Chen Zhao wants me to show him Mount Longhu's unique technique. I think he wants to learn it secretly. If he wants to see it, then let him. Cut the crap." "But he won't understand," Zhang Tianyi said confidently. Chapter 1892. It was just as Zhang Tianyi had said. Chen Zhao couldn't understand at all, because Chen Zhao didn't follow the Taoist cultivation method, unless Yang Hua told Chen Zhao all the methods. Otherwise, Chen Zhao wouldn't be able to learn it just by demonstration. Chen Zhao wasn't a genius who could learn it just by seeing it once. Zhang Tianyi knew this, and so did Chen Zhao. But Chen Zhao didn't want to learn Dragon Tiger Mountain's unique spells. Instead, he wanted to find some cultivation, inspiration, or enlightenment from their unique magic arts. What Chen Zhao wanted was not a technique, but an epiphany. Yang Hua returned the phone to Chen Zhao, embarrassed. "Chen Zhao, what spell do you want to see? How would I know? As long as you don't teach it to others, just show me. I don't know a lot. I mainly cultivate Taoist spells that are derived from the Yin and Yang twin." "What's Yin and Yang twin?" "My spell is a body-refining spell, but I can't achieve Yin and Yang twin. I can only withstand Yin Qi or Yang Qi alone, so I can only use it alone. My normal state is Yang birth, while Yin death will cause me to lose my mind. Every time I use it, it's extremely damaging to my body, so I only use it when the Grandmaster is around," Yang Hua said. Yang Hua said, "All of my magic arts are based on the foundation of Yin and Yang." Chen Zhao thought about it. Wasn't this like splitting the God Strike into two parts? Not everyone could cultivate the God Strike. After all, the God Strike used the spiritual qi of heaven and earth and the energy of the universe to temper the body. The magic cultivated from the spiritual qi was Yang Qi, while the energy of the universe was Yin Qi. The Yin-death collision was like absorbing the energy of the universe into the body, but it couldn't achieve Yin and Yang twin. So, the final result was more Yin and less Yang. It was just like the Taoists saying, take what's in excess and make up for what's lacking. It was understandable that the Yin-death state would harm the body. "Then I'll cast the spell in the Yang birth state first." "Okay, first, I'll ask for God's decree. I've shown it to you before." Yang Hua took out a yellow talisman. Holding it between his fingers, he chanted, "God, please issue a decree." After the yellow talisman turned to ash, the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual energy faintly contained a trace of spiritual light that entered Yang Hua's body. Yang Hua's body was instantly covered by the light. The strength of his body increased a little. Chen Zhao looked at Yang Hua's body. He could feel that Yang Hua had indeed become stronger. However, Chen Zhao could feel the trick to this spell. That talisman should be the key. In fact, the spirit talisman was just a medium through which the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual qi could be absorbed. The moment the talisman was ignited, the heaven and earth spiritual qi was quickly gathered and attached to the surface of Yang Hua's body. Actually, it was similar to how Chen Zhao channeled the spiritual qi into someone else's body. However, not everyone could control the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Therefore, he needed to use the talisman as a medium, and at the same time, combine it with the dermic seal to complete this spell. However, this spell was completely useless against Chen Zhao. First of all, if the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was not transformed into mana and absorbed into the body, it would cause harm to the body. The more he used it, the more he would get hurt. Without Chen Zhao's powerful body, even someone with Zhang Tianyi's cultivation would be injured. For example, Navat Singh had borrowed Chen Zhao's power back then. In the end, he had been lying in the hospital for more than half a month and had only been discharged a few days ago. Therefore, this spell was useless against Chen Zhao. Yang Hua's invocation didn't give Chen Zhao any inspiration either. Continue with the next spell. I'll show you how to borrow power. Yang Hua took a deep breath, and his body shook slightly. Chun Zhao realized that Yanghua's aura had changed. Yanghua's aura became somewhat ethereal, like dust and smoke. Immediately, Yanghua's palm slapped toward Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao clearly saw a palm made of smoke land on his chest. However, the palm didn't hurt him at all. Like a gentle breeze, it swept past Chun Zhao and lifted his clothes. Chun Zhao touched his chest. It was a strange feeling. Yanghua didn't seem to have used a spell just now. He didn't even use any powerful force. However, he could clearly see the wind from his palm. That attack didn't hurt him, but that was also because Yanghua didn't really attack. Chun Zhao could also send out fist shadows. However, Chun Zhao's fist shadows were created when his strength and speed reached a certain level. It was like the arc of a falling meteor or the light and shadow created by the friction between a falling celestial body and the air. The fist shadows were purely a physical phenomenon. If one didn't have enough strength or speed, they wouldn't be able to get rid of the fist shadows. But Yanghua's palm wind was so light, yet he could clearly see the palm wind. This confused Chun Zhao. He looked at Yanghua in confusion. "What's that spell called?" Chun Zhao asked. After a moment of silence, Yanghua said, "It's called borrowing power. I think you should call it the melancholic palm," Chun Zhao said. "No, definitely not." Yanghua seemed to have guessed that Chun Zhao would say that. His reaction was extremely agitated and resistant. Puffed. "Did someone give it this name in the past? Is it that old man Zhang Tianyi?" Chun Zhao looked at Yanghua teasingly. Yanghua's face darkened. "I don't want to talk to you. What's the theory behind that?" Chun Zhao asked curiously. "I can't tell you. If you tell me the trick, I'll have our bet last time," Chun Zhao said. Yanghua hesitated for a moment. He didn't like to listen to others, but he had to abide by the bet. However, he had to abide by the bet. Zhang Tianyi had warned him. However, if he could reject the bet legitimately, it would be a chance for him to be free. Yanghua looked at Chun Zhao. 1 year. I want our bet to be cancelled." Chun Zhao squinted at Yanghua and sneered. "Don't forget that you have to listen to me in this 1 year. Even if I don't promise anything, you have to agree to any of my requests." "That's impossible. Why should I teach you Dragon Tiger Mountain's unique spell? Since you're using it to negotiate with me, it means that it's not a unique spell. Most likely, it was found by that old man Zhang Tianyi, just to make you worthy of the name Yanghua. So don't use it to bargain with me. My request, you have to agree to it whether you want to or not. Not to mention, you can't beat me." Yanghua was furious, but he couldn't retort. Just as Chun Zhao had said, this was indeed not a unique spell of Dragon Tiger Mountain. "Okay, just accept my requests, and we'll still be good friends." Chapter 1893. Yanghua sighed dejectedly. He really wanted to say, "I'll kill you." But considering the serious consequences, Yanghua still chose the words of the ancients. A man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. Not everyone can learn how to borrow power. Don't worry about whether I can learn it or not. Tell me the trick first. Borrowing power is to borrow the power of everything in the world. Everyone can borrow different things. Some people can borrow the power of wild beasts. Some can borrow the power of mountains, rivers, and seas. Some can borrow the power of wind and clouds. And some can borrow the power of water and fire. Yanghua waved his hand in front of him. A cloud of mist coiled in his palm, gathering and not dispersing. But in the end, he clenched his fist and the mist dissipated. Yanghua looked up and said, "My power is this ethereal mist. It's tangible but not tangible, tangible but boundless." "What power does your power have?" Chun Zhao really couldn't see the power of his power. "I'm using softness to conquer hardness." "Then show me," Chun Zhao said. Annoyed, Yanghua yelled, "Are you asking me to teach you the trick, or are you just bickering with me?" "Fine, continue." Chun Zhao shrugged. "To learn how to borrow power, you first have to understand what power is," Yanghua continued. "Everything in the world has power. Living things have it, dead things have it too." With that, Yanghua bent down and scooped up the surging seawater. This handful of water also has power. With that, Yanghua returned the seawater to the waves. This wave also has power, this ocean also has power, and this world also has power. That's a bit of a big concept. Does the universe have power? Chen Zhao couldn't help but interrupt. Are you a contrarian? Yang Guo was furious. A good student should be able to deduce many things from one instance. This means that I'm a good student. Shouldn't you be proud to have a good student like me? Piss off. Fine, I won't talk anymore. Continue. There's a Chinese saying, unstoppable, unstoppable. This actually points to the essence, but very few can truly understand it. Yang Guo continued, force isn't unchanging. Force can change at any time and place. However, the secrets and techniques of force can be summarized in 4 words: mountain of fire. This sentence is from Japan, right? Get lost. This is from Sun Tzu's Art of War. Yang Guo scolded angrily, swift like the wind, gentle like the forest, aggressive like fire, immovable like a mountain. There are only these 4 types of power in the world. Sun Bin also knows how to practice power. I don't know if Sun Bin has cultivated force, but force was indeed comprehended from Sun Bin's Art of War. What's the most powerful force? Chen Zhao asked. There is no one type of power that is the most powerful. It only depends on how much power you can grasp and use. Yang was said. Swift as the wind, his movements were as fast as a hurricane. Su Rilin advanced slowly. His troops were as orderly as a dense forest. Invade like fire, invade and disturb. As fierce as raging fire, unstoppable. Immovable like a mountain. Stationing troops to defend is as solid as a mountain, unshakable. You still haven't told me the most important thing. How do I practice power? Not practice, but comprehension. Comprehension, do you understand? Chen Zhao was most afraid of so-called comprehension. In the past, apart from regular training, he'd cultivated. Most of the time, he'd reached where he was today through his own deductions and predictions. This was completely different from Taoism's so-called comprehension. Comprehension was all about sudden inspiration. It was just that he suddenly understood. This was what Chen Zhao was the worst at. In the past, when Chen Zhao and Old Turtle communicated, Chen Zhao hated it the most. What annoyed Chen Zhao the most was that Old Turtle kept talking to him about the stream of consciousness. What did he mean by "you'll understand in the future" or "you need to figure out yourself"? How did you practice it? Chen Zhao asked again. Once, I broke the sect rules in the sect and was punished by the Grandmaster. I had to meditate in the Tranquil Heart Hall for 10 days and 10 nights. One night, I saw the smoke rising from the incense in front of the 3 Pure One statues in the Tranquil Heart Hall. Then, my understanding of momentum suddenly flashed through my mind. Then, I comprehended the momentum of dust and smoke. Yang glanced at Chen Zhao. But not everyone can comprehend force. It requires a lot of talent. Even on Dragon Tiger Mountain, there aren't many people who can comprehend force. Talent? I'm stronger than you. Isn't that enough to prove my talent? Since you can practice it, I can too. Power doesn't mean everything. No, it means everything, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. With that, Chen Zhao suddenly clenched his fist and swung. A fist shadow tore through the air. The fist shadow landed heavily in the waves more than 20 meters away. There was a huge boom and a huge wave rose into the sky. This was power? Yang Guo was alarmed. No, the fist shadow looked domineering and powerful, but it didn't feel like power. It wasn't power. It was just a magic attack that looked similar. It's useless to scare me. I said that power doesn't mean everything. There are many seniors on Dragon Tiger Mountain who are stronger than me, but there are only a few who can truly comprehend power. Yang was still insistent on his point. If you want to comprehend power, you must first understand what your power is. If you can't even find your power, then it's just wishful thinking. Although Chen Zhao sounded tough, he didn't have much confidence. As for Yang Guo's words, Chen Zhao still remembered them. Find my power? Is my power the ocean? Chen Zhao turned to look at the ocean. It was turbulent, violent, and boundless. According to Yang Guo, power should be ever-changing. But the ocean was the ocean. What did it have to do with power? If it was borrowing the power of the ocean, there was no need for power at all. So, power didn't really represent something or a living thing. My power doesn't represent the ocean either. It's my heart. Only a human's heart would have, that kind of ever-changing fluctuation. Using something to represent power was actually a reflection of one's own personality. For example, Yang power was dust and smoke. Yang personality was plain and casual. Chen Zhao was a bit sick of this. It was a good cultivation trick, but it had to be like a stream of consciousness. Wouldn't it be better to just write a paragraph of the trick? Why did he have to make it so mysterious? It would be more troublesome for future generations to cultivate. Chen Zhao thought about it. What was my personality? It seemed to be similar to Yanghua. Was my power also dust and smoke? Chen Zhao closed his eyes and imagined the wisp of smoke in front of the statue. I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything at all. Forget it. That feeling was too mysterious. I'd better imagine something more realistic. Chen Zhao turned to the green mountain behind him. He wanted to see if he could feel the power of the green mountain. Chapter 1894. He didn't feel anything. Qing Shan's aura wasn't his aura either. Chen Zhao looked up at the blue sky again. In the vast and boundless sky, he didn't seem to feel anything. What was his aura? It really wasn't that simple. Chen Zhao didn't even have an accurate concept of aura. He couldn't even comprehend the so-called aura. He wasn't good at these streams of consciousness things. He thought a problem. Yanghua once said that everything in this world had its own potential. There were living things and dead things. In that case, if someone were to face him, would that person be able to feel the aura from his body? If that was the case, then he had aura. Everything had aura, and he shouldn't be an exception. Was the aura that he had the same as the aura he had comprehended? According to this theory, could it be said that aura was like money? Everything in the world had value. As for those who could comprehend power, it was as if they could obtain money from everything in the world. For example, this person was suitable for this industry, and that person was suitable for that business. The comprehension and cultivation of aura was like the accumulation of capital. According to the theory of capital, no one had to do this business. As long as they were willing, anyone could accept any business. Similarly, everyone could choose the aura they liked. Yanghua, can everyone only comprehend one aura? I've never heard of anyone who can comprehend two auras. You haven't, or impossible. No, you can only comprehend one aura, but it's like a reflection of your heart, so I don't think a person can comprehend two auras. Is there a price to pay for borrowing aura? Chen Zhao asked. If it's just a little, there's no price, but if you borrow too much, it'll cause serious damage to your body. Chen Zhao thought about it. It wasn't hard to understand, but Chen Zhao still fell into the paradox he'd created. Was there a flaw in the conjecture he had established? Or was there a paradox in Yanghua's words? After thinking about it, Chen Zhao pushed away his previous hypothesis. He reconstructed a new hypothesis. Actually, spiritualists were very similar to mathematicians. When a hypothesis was established, they would try everything to solve it. They would calculate and deduce the hypothesis from all angles to prove it correct. Chen Zhao thought for a long time and thought of another possibility. It was also based on capital theory. His influence was also money, and so was the influence of others. Borrowing someone else's power was like borrowing a credit card. If he only borrowed a small amount of power and returned in time, then he wouldn't have to pay any price. Moreover, he could enjoy the pleasure of money in advance. If he borrowed too much power, he would not be able to bear it. This was the time to pay the price. It was like borrowing money from a bank. The longer he borrowed, the more he would pay back, plus the interest. Chen Zhao's thoughts became clearer and clearer. Was his own power equivalent to his own power? No. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of a possibility. How could people borrow power from each other? This kind of borrowing power was very much like the relationship between God and his believers. Believers believed in God, and God lent them strength. Forget it. I still can't completely clear my thoughts. Chen Zhao shook his head and temporarily gave up. Not only did he fail to comprehend it, he even created a new problem. It seemed that borrowing power was not as simple as he had imagined. How about it? Have you given up? Seeing Chen Zhao's gaze, Yanghua's face was filled with pride. I told you, not everyone can understand it. It's a wise choice for you to give up. Chen Zhao glanced at Yanghua. How long did you use to comprehend borrowing power? Half a month. You use half a month. Before today, I didn't even know what power was. Why do you think I gave up? Why do you think I can't comprehend it? Chun Zhao admitted that borrowing power was not as easy as he had imagined, but did not mean that he would give up. He only planned to wait until the night was quiet and his heart had calmed down before entering the river diagram to comprehend it. Cultivators of all religions liked to go into seclusion. Why did he go into seclusion? It was because seclusion could calm their hearts. Chun Zhao did not plan on giving up so easily. Moreover, he still had a killer weapon, the river diagram. If one day was not enough, then he would do 10. If 10 wasn't enough, then he would do 100. If 100 wasn't enough, then he would do 1,000. Chun Zhao did not believe that he could use 10, 100, or even 1,000 times the time of others to comprehend it. He could not comprehend borrowing power either. At night, this time, Chun Zhao did not fly into the sky to practice. Instead, he entered the river diagram directly. The river diagram was still as beautiful as before. The scenery was as lively as before, but Chun Zhao felt that something was missing. He had not entered the river diagram for a long time. Ever since Old Turtle had ascended to immortality, he had not entered. Things were the same now, but people had changed. The river diagram was still the same, but his old friend was gone. Of course, Chun Zhao was not the kind of person to be sentimental. Although some longing rose in his heart, Chun Zhao's mind had recovered. Chun Zhao began to comprehend and cultivate. Chun Zhao had always wondered if the river diagram was an alternate space or the entrance to a real world. If it was an alternate space, then the river diagram was too big. The space inside the river diagram could even contain Earth and still have some spare space. Therefore, this place should not have anything to do with Earth. Another thing was the time here. An hour had passed outside, but only 3 seconds had passed here. Time was a very special power. Chun Zhao did not even know if time counted as a power. Chun Zhao also knew a lot of powerful people, but Chun Zhao had never heard of anyone who could control time. But Nuwa, an ancient god, could create a world with a completely different flow of time. In any case, this ability was many times stronger than Chun Zhao's. Nevertheless, Nuwa's power was not something Chun Zhao could guess right now. Of course, this also gave Chun Zhao motivation. He could not compare to the ancient god. At least he had a goal to pursue. He was far from the level of a god. He still had a lot of room for improvement. Right now, Chun Zhao's focus was still on borrowing power. If he wanted to borrow someone else's power, he first had to understand where his own power was. It wasn't his own power, nor was it his own magic. Chun Zhao raised his power to the maximum and used all his trump cards. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, this was indeed not easy to comprehend. Chun Zhao racked his brains, but still had no idea. Chapter 1895. Chun Zhao had been sitting where he was for 3 days and 3 nights. Chun Zhao had been guessing what the so-called influence was, but each guess was raised again and again. He denied himself again and again. First, influence is related to a person's personality, Chun Zhao muttered to himself. Second, it's affected by emotions. What was related to a person's personality and could be affected by emotions? Spiritual power? Chun Zhao thought about it. Was it spiritual power? However, not everything had mental energy. Chun Zhao suddenly stood up from the ground. No, it wasn't that he didn't have any spiritual power at all. Apart from humans, other things could become demons and gain intelligence. Before transforming into a demon, they would develop intelligence. Even if it was a brush or a blade of grass, it could develop intelligence. So, these things had spiritual power too. If this guess was correct, it was definitely related to spiritual power. But it wasn't pure spiritual power. Chun Zhao had activated 3 keys now. A golden key, a spectral key, and a red key. The spectral key could absorb the souls of enemies of a similar nature. Chun Zhao had absorbed a black dragon soul before, so his spiritual power was much stronger than normal people's. But Chun Zhao didn't feel anything special about spiritual power. Spiritual power wasn't completely useless to Chun Zhao, but it wasn't very useful to Chun Zhao. First of all, strong spiritual power could increase one's resistance to spiritual spells and illusions. But strong magic could do the same. Also, when he cast spiritual spells, they would be much more powerful. But for this problem, it was the same as the former. The effect of strong magic was more obvious. Moreover, Chen Zhao knew very few spiritual spells. His best spells were Fall to Hell and Banshee's Charm. He could only use them a few times. In an intense battle, spiritual spells couldn't be used much. So, strong spiritual power was useless to Chen Zhao. It was tasteless, but it was a pity to throw it away. But now, if this guess was correct, then spiritual power wouldn't be useless anymore. Chen Zhao slowly rose into the air and looked down at the ground. Below him were green mountains and ethereal clouds. How could he use spiritual power to turn into influence? Chen Zhao spread his spiritual power out. He mixed in celestial power to see if there would be any changes. Chen Zhao tried, but there was no reaction. His mental energy and immortal energy did not fuse, nor did they reject each other. The two of them were clearly separated, and there was no reaction from each other. Let's try the spiritual chi of heaven and earth again. It was still the same. There was still no reaction. It was not magic power, nor was it spiritual energy. Chen Zhao closed his eyes, and his spiritual power continued to spread out. Soon, Chen Zhao's spiritual power covered the entire small world. Just then, the earth, mountains, plants, rivers, and the clouds in the sky seemed to gather toward Chen Zhao's mind. Chen Zhao observed the things that gathered. A dark yellow air current rose from the ground. A green air current rose from the trees, and a blue air current rose from the river. There was also the white stream of air produced by the floating clouds. Chen Zhao clapped his hands. I understand now. After the colorful air currents gathered, they formed a colorful rainbow-shaped ring above Chen Zhao's head and spread out in circles. Above his head hung a ring of rainbow, like the halo of an angel. Chen Zhao looked up at the halo above his head. He felt a bit sick of it. If he added a pair of wings now, he could disguise himself as an angel. At the same time, Chen Zhao felt everything around him giving him power. It was as if everything was becoming his body. As long as Chen Zhao could bear it, there was no limit to this power. Chen Zhao's mental energy spread in the small world. It was like an amplified signal station filled with magnetism. It kept sending out some kind of signal, or rather, some kind of rule. Everything within a 10-kilometer radius seemed to be covered by Chen Zhao's mental energy signal. This power absorbed from the mountains, rivers, and everything in nature completely fused into Chen Zhao's body. It also did not conflict with Chen Zhao's yin-yang fish at all. Chen Zhao felt as if this power was his own. So, this was how Yonghua felt when he used borrowing power. Chen Zhao took a deep breath and pressed his palm down from above. Instantly, Chen Zhao's power merged with the power of the world. A huge palm pressed down like a Buddha's hand. The palm seemed to be real. It was almost 100 meters long. It fell from hundreds of meters in the sky and slammed into the mountain below. With a loud boom, a huge palm print was left on the slope of the mountain. The plants covered by the palm were completely destroyed. Damn, this move is awesome. Chen Zhao couldn't help but exclaim. The power of the world was even stronger than the fish shadows he'd developed earlier. Just then, Chen Zhao felt his right arm go numb and itchy. Chen Zhao reached out and scratched. With this, he realized that the fifth pristine eyeball on his right arm had opened. Chen Zhao removed the tube. As expected, the fifth pristine eyeball had opened. The fifth pristine eyeball was absorbing the power of the world in Chen Zhao's body. It had the same function as the fourth eye of the thunder, but the type of power it absorbed was different. Then, the fifth pristine eyeball would be called the eye of the world. In short, it was snobbish. After the eye of the general trend absorbed enough of the great trend of heaven and earth, it closed. The power of the world in Chen Zhao's body was still full. Chen Zhao returned the power of the world. The rainbow halo above his head also dissipated. Eye of the world open. Chen Zhao tried twice and finally succeeded in opening the eye of the world. Once the eye of the world opened, it started pouring the power of the world into Chun Zhao. The amount of power stored in the eye of the world was the same as what Chun Zhao could handle himself. This meant that Chun Zhao didn't need to specially absorb the power of the world around him. If he needed it, he could open the eye of the world and absorb the power of the world from it. The eye of the world could replenish itself. This was different from the eye of the thunder. However, this was because they absorbed different things. The eye of the thunder absorbed lightning. Chun Zhao had to wait for a thunderstorm or run into the high-voltage electric laboratory himself. Otherwise, the eye of the thunder wouldn't be able to absorb it. The eye of the world was different. As long as it was in this world, Chun Zhao could absorb endless power of the world. Chun Zhao started trying the power of the world and the eye of the world again and again. He tried to integrate the power of the world with himself. Chapter 1896. Under the power of the world, Chun Zhao's fist shadows became even stronger. If the fist shadows from before were purely physical attacks, then, after the fist shadow was strengthened by the power of heaven and earth, it had an enchantment effect. However, there was one thing, and that was that the consumption of the worldly power far exceeded the absorption. Even with the help of the eye of the general trend, his absorption speed was only twice as fast as usual. At the same time, their reserves doubled. Chun Zhao had predicted that if he went all out, he would not be able to escape. It would take about an hour for him and the eye of the general trend to completely unleash the world's momentum. In other words, he could only maintain this all-out state for an hour at most. Chun Zhao's physical body did not become stronger after using the power of the world. His strength and speed increased, but there were no qualitative changes. Power of the heavens and earth increased the effect of enchantments. Chun Zhao stayed in the river map for around 3 months before leaving. To the outside world, only 2 hours had passed. Portia was startled. She had thought that Chun Zhao wasn't home, so she asked the kids. The kids didn't know where Chun Zhao had gone either. In the end, Chun Zhao appeared out of nowhere. "Boss, where did you come from? You didn't even say anything. You scare me to death. This is my home. Do I have to report to you where I go?" Chun Zhao rubbed his shoulder. Just then, Yangwa walked in. When he saw Chun Zhao, he was stunned. Strange, Chun Zhao's aura seemed to have changed after not seeing him for a while. And it became very strange. "Xiaoyang, I have something to talk to you about. Let's talk outside." Yangwa followed Chun Zhao to the front yard. Yangwa stared at him. "You look different from before." Chun Zhao opened his right palm. An invisible force gathered in his palm. Yangwa's pupils constricted. That familiar yet strange aura. Force? Yangwa stared at Chun Zhao in shock. "You succeeded? How could this be? How did you do it?" Yangwa's face was filled with disbelief. Previously, he had thought that Chun Zhao couldn't understand borrowing power. At the very least, it wouldn't be that easy to comprehend. However, only 2 hours had passed. Chun Zhao succeeded. Chun Zhao's injuries were clearly different from his. "What does your power represent?" Yangwa asked. "This is what I wanted to ask you." "I seem to be able to absorb all kinds of forces," Chun Zhao said. "Mountains, rivers, living beings, oceans, the world." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." A colorful ball formed in Chun Zhao's palm. Yangwa looked at him. "Do you want to know what your power represents?" "Of course." "Do you want to hear an awesome name?" "Is my power that awesome?" "I don't know. I've never seen it before." "Then what did you mean before?" "It means that if you want an awesome name, you can think of one yourself." Everyone's power is different, but generally speaking, they can't escape the 4 forms of wind, forest, fire. What a waste of my feelings. Chun Zhao pouted. Chun Zhao glanced at Yangwa. "Will there be any special changes when you use force?" "Change? What kind of change?" Yangwa asked. "Is it the change in mana or the change in the body? For example, a phenomenon." "Phenomenon? I don't understand." "Maybe your force is special. Why don't you demonstrate?" "Forget it. I'll study it myself." When Chun Zhao absorbed the surrounding force with all his strength, a rainbow halo would appear above his head. Chun Zhao felt awkward, but he didn't want to show it to others easily. "Don't go. Why are you like this? You stop halfway. Are you trying to make things difficult for me?" Yangguo was furious. He could tell from Chun Zhao's tone that something special would happen when he used force. Yang Wu was curious about what was so special about Chun Zhao's force. However, Chun Zhao didn't care about his feelings. This made Yang Wu furious. I'm the one who taught you this. You should at least show some respect for your teacher. Talk to me when you can beat me. Chun Zhao rolled his eyes at Yang Wu. No matter what, I taught you. It's not too much for you to pay me back with interest. Interest? I used half a year to control you for this. Are you sure you want to ask for interest? Forget it. Forget it. You're so boring. Yang Wu fled with his tail between his legs. Wait. Chun Zhao suddenly stopped Yang Wu. What? The enemies want to kill you, and that mixed blood woman are nearby, Chun Zhao said. Where? Halfway up the mountain, beside the highway. Why don't you do anything? They didn't enter my territory. That's the border of your territory, right? You know it's the border. That means they're not in my territory yet. So you're just going to let them keep watching? I don't mind. They're not watching me anyway. Grandmaster hired you to protect us. No, not to protect you. I'm protecting you. Is there a difference? I think there is. Protecting you is to be your bodyguard. Protecting you is to give you a place to stay. But there's a time limit to your protection. If you want to extend the time, you can pay a price. What do you want? For example, unique spells and the like. Yang Wu didn't even think about it and directly refused. Chun Zhao could learn how to borrow power in a short 2 to 3 hours. He was definitely very talented. Plus, they were about the same age. He was far more powerful than Chun Zhao, even among his peers in Dragon Tiger Mountain. Perhaps no one would be able to match him. He was definitely a 1-in-a-million genius. Yang Wu didn't understand that any peerless master in the world, they weren't the most talented among their peers. Their strength was often due to personal luck. Chun Zhao was that kind of person. Chun Zhao had only been in contact with supernatural powers for a short time. It had only been a little more than 2 years. Chun Zhao's talent wasn't very powerful either. He didn't have the charisma to say that his life was up to him. Even Chun Zhao's own training was haphazard. It wasn't a complete system on the whole. But Chun Zhao's cultivation was extremely solid. Of course, Chun Zhao could have his current strength. It was also related to his way of thinking. Most of the time, Chun Zhao didn't use metaphysical methods to understand cultivation. Instead, he used scientific methods to understand and comprehend. Yang Wu didn't understand. He was still too young. He felt that powerful strength was supported by powerful talent. Dragon Tiger Mountain made him, but it also restricted him. Chun Zhao, on the other hand, had walked a unique path. Chapter 1897. Mr. Faxbin. What have you been doing for the past 2 days? Xin Li realized that Ruan Faxi had been locking himself in his room for the past 2 days. Xin Li had originally asked Lisa and Mo Air to take a look. Did something happen to Ruan Faxbin? But the two of them were too lazy to care. They always said that nothing would happen to Ruan Faxi. Ruan Faxbin finally came out of his room today. However, his face was haggard and his eyes were lifeless. It's all your uncle's fault, Ruan complained. I've been working outside, and he insisted that I create a magic tool. Ruan Faxi could only craft magic tools for 48 hours straight without sleep. Maybe Uncle needs it urgently. Xin Li couldn't blame Chun Zhao, who she respected. She instinctively found an excuse for her uncle. This is used to suppress one's aura. Your uncle only needs this thing when he unleashes his full strength. In North America, no one really needs him to unleash his full strength, so this magic tool is not in a hurry. The magic tool itself was not a very complicated magic tool. However, it was troublesome, and there was a certain degree of difficulty in some of the detailed steps. Are you ready? Mr. Farsburn. It's done. I'll go out for a while and send this to your uncle, Ruan said. Mr. Faxbin, let me help you. You can have a good rest today. Well, all right. Ruan Faxi was happy to relax and handed the ring-shaped magic item to Xin Li. Xin Li took the ring and left the hotel. At this moment, Xin Li's shoulder was bumped by someone who was coming toward her. Xin Li looked up subconsciously. I'm sorry. The man who bumped into her shoulder was wearing a hood. He turned around and glared at Xin Li. Be careful when you walk. After the man left, Xin Li stuck out her tongue. At this moment, the receptionist at the entrance of the hotel walked over and patted Xin Li's shoulder. "Miss, your things were stolen by that guy." The greeter was obviously a local and knew some of the gangsters and scoundrels here. However, he was also very careful. After the man left, he walked over to remind Xin Li. Xin Li was stunned for a moment. Then she left and searched her body. His wallet, phone, and the ring were gone. Oh no! Xin Li anxiously chased after the man who had left. "Stop right there." The man broke into a run. Xin Li was not slow at all. She was a spiritualist to begin with, so her physique was stronger than that of ordinary people. Moreover, when they were at Minghua Villa, Chun Zhao would give her all sorts of supplements every now and then. Therefore, her physique was much better than that of ordinary spiritualists. However, the thief was also a local bully, so he was not slow to begin with. In addition, he was familiar with the local terrain. Xin Li was unable to catch up immediately. Climb over a wall, jump over a barricade, or crawl into a building. All of these made Xin Li feel strained and troubled. Fortunately, Xin Li's stamina was good. Even if she had to run a long distance, she was still able to keep up with him. After running for a while, the thief also felt a little tired. He originally thought that as long as he persisted for a while, the little girl behind him would be left behind. The result was beyond his expectations. That little girl was really good at running. The thief gritted his teeth and finally stopped. He turned around and saw Xin Li chasing after him. "Little girl, do you want to die?" Looking at the vicious thief in front of her, Xin Li remained calm. No matter how vicious the thief was, he was just an ordinary person. But she was a spiritualist and a curse witch. "Give it back to me, or I won't go easy on you. Fuck off, or I'll kill you." The thief took out a dagger and slashed it in the air, staring at Xin Li fiercely. Seeing that the thief was unwilling to give it back, Xin Li had no choice but to attack. Staring at the thief, Xin Li chanted a silent spell. A red thread drilled into the thief's body. The thief did not notice it at all. The thief's breathing became heavier and heavier. He panted heavily. For some reason, he had already stopped. But the thief felt his body getting heavier and his breathing became more difficult. It was as if he had run a marathon. Xin Li saw that her weakened spell did not seem to be very effective on the thief. Weaken would weaken the opponent's physique to a certain extent. However, the stronger the physique, the weaker it would be. Of course, this was also because Xin Li did not use her full strength. "Seems like I went too easy on him," Xin Li thought. Xin Li used Weaken again. This time, it was 5 times stronger. Weaken wasn't fatal. Even the most serious Weaken spell would only need to lie in bed for a few days to recover. The thief suddenly felt his legs turn to jelly. He could not even stand. With a thud, he fell to the ground. The thief opened his eyes and watched as Xin Li walked to him. She took out the things he had just stolen. Xin Li found her wallet, ring, and phone that had been stolen. Xin Li looked at the thief on the ground with a sense of pleasure. She kicked the thief. "I'll let you go this time." Xin Li was still soft-hearted. If it was someone else from the supernatural organization, one kick would probably make him bedridden for 3 to 5 months. Just then, a cold light shot down from above. Xin Li's heart froze. She realized the danger, but her body could not react in such a short time. Xin Li tried her best to move away, but the cold light had already pierced her chest. Wah! Xin Li took 2 steps back and spat out a mouthful of blood. Just then, a pale-faced man jumped down from the balcony of a house not far away. The pale-faced man stopped a few meters in front of Xin Li. "Do you know where this is?" "This is Blackford, my territory. All spiritualists have to follow my rules here, but you dared to use magic on my people." The pale-faced man raised the gun in his hand. The gun was made of gold. The man stuffed a golden bullet into it. Normal people did not know. Only spiritualists did. Gold had a very powerful anti-magic effect. The golden bullet the man used was specially made to deal with spiritualists. Xin Li's face was also very pale. "This guy stole my things. I just wanted to take them back." "He's my subordinate," the pale-faced man said coldly. the pale-faced man said coldly. Moreover, a spiritualist actually had something stolen by an ordinary person. That can only mean that your ability is inferior. You're unreasonable. Xian Li's face showed an unusual redness. Blood rushed to her head, and she spat out another mouthful of blood. Give me the things and get out of my territory. Chapter 1898. Xian Li knew she couldn't win. She turned around and tried to run, but she couldn't outrun bullets. In a flash, Xian Li's calf was pierced by a golden bullet. With a thud, he rolled on the ground. The pale-faced man took the things Xian Li had just found, ignoring her on the ground. He pulled the thief up and left. Xian Li was just a little girl. She couldn't take it. She didn't make a sound. Her face was covered in tears. She climbed up with difficulty and limped back. Back at the entrance of the hotel, the receptionist saw Xian Li with tears on her face and blood all over her body. She immediately knew something was wrong and ran over to help Xian Li. Xian Li finally couldn't hold back her tears any longer and burst into tears. When Ruan Faxbin, Lisa, Moore, and Kalon learned that Xian Li was injured, they all exploded. Xian Li's injury wasn't light. They quickly sent her to the hospital. In England, gangs had always been a problem in every city. Everyone asked Xian Li, but she didn't say anything. She just cried. They only learned some things from the receptionist, but they didn't believe a thief could hurt Xian Li. 2 golden bullets were taken from Xian Li's body. Was that something a thief could use? Clearly, the thief knew Xian Li was a spiritualist and purposely attacked her with the golden bullets. Everyone's faces were ugly as they stood outside Xian Li's ward. Xian Li cried until she was tired and fell asleep. She was just a little girl. Her mental endurance wasn't high. Now that she suffered like this, it was easy to imagine how depressed she was. What do we do now? Kalon asked. He didn't know what to do either. Ask the old vampire, Lisa said. We're unfamiliar with this place and don't have any clues, but the old vampire definitely knows. Since he used golden bullets, he's definitely not a low-profile person. It's the right choice to ask him. The key is, how do we tell the president? Ruan Faxbin said worriedly. If the president knows what happened here, he'll skin us alive. That's why we have to solve this as soon as possible. We need to find the person first and then calm Xian Li down. Lisa was also terrified. I'll call the old vampire. Ruan Faxburn took out his phone and dialed Nagrand Vagris's number. My Lord Earl, my companion was attacked in Edinburgh. I want to know if there is anyone in Edinburgh who uses golden bullets. Golden bullet? On the other end of the phone, Nagrand Vagris raised an eyebrow. I don't know him, Nagrand Vagris said. Ruan Faxi made a judgment based on the hesitation in his reply and the tone of his voice. He knew that the other party knew him, and they might even be related to each other. My lord, I'm sincere, so I hope you can tell us the truth. Ruan tried his best to control himself. I said I don't know him. Besides, I have no obligation to help you. Nagrand Vagris said matter-of-factly. When Ruan Faxbin mentioned the golden bullet, Nagrand Vagris knew who they were looking for. That was one of his 7 descendants, Pero Vidal. That was a descendant who had accompanied him for 100 years. To Nagrand Vagris, all 7 of them were his children. He couldn't betray his children for a group of outsiders. If that's the case, we can only look for him ourselves. Ruan Faxi's face was livid, and his tone became tough. This is Edinburgh, my territory. I won't allow outsiders to mess around here. But my man was injured here. Then you can only blame yourself for not protecting him well enough, Nagrand Vagris said disapprovingly. Nagrand Vagris, are you testing the bottom line of our tolerance? Ruan Faxburn's tone was heavy. At this time, he was too lazy to pretend to call Nagrand Vagris Lord Earl. He directly called him by his name. Ha! You came to my territory to provoke me, and then you tell me I'm testing your tolerance limit? Don't you all think too highly of yourselves? Nagrand Vagris, can I assume that the attacker is related to you, and you're the one who ordered the attacker? Ruan Faxbin asked coldly. If that's what you want to think, then there's nothing I can do. Nagrand Vagris wasn't affected by Ruan Faxi's threat. Due to your attitude, Our cooperation ends here. You'd better leave Edinburgh, or I won't go easy on you. It's impossible to leave. You'd better prepare yourself. We'll go find you, Ruan Faxi said angrily. You want to start a war? As you wish. Nagran Vagaris obviously wouldn't back down now. Since he'd already said it, there was no point in saying anything more. Both sides hung up the phone angrily. Ruan Faxibin said, "The battle has begun." War? Although Reisa didn't hear Nagran Vagaris's words, she could roughly guess the situation from Ruan Fazibin's conversation and his tone of voice. Call on. Stay here and protect Xianli. We'll go find the old vampire to settle the score, Ruan Faxi said. I don't want to. I want to join, Kalon immediately shouted. This was the first time he'd been involved in a battle since he became a spiritualist. He wasn't willing to give up. He wanted to participate. Then who's going to protect Xianli? Lisa glanced at Colin. If we start a war with that old vampire, he's likely to attack Xianli again. What if she gets hurt without anyone protecting her? You can stay here and protect Xianli, Kalon retorted. We're going to kill. Lisa's gaze was cold. Do you dare to kill? Kalon finally realized. The battle they'd imagined wasn't the same thing at all. Ruan Faxi, Lisa, and even more weren't going to fight. They were going to kill. They weren't joking. The three in front of them weren't good people. They were all people who had experienced real battlefields. Ruan Faxi patted Colin's shoulder. Kalon, you should stay. You definitely don't want to see what we plan to do. Kalon finally nodded and didn't say anything. The three of them weren't the kind of people who could swallow insults. Even more, who usually looked like a good kid, had the bloodiest fighting style. Chapter 1899. Li Peiluo, did you attack a girl? Father. Li Peiluo Weeder was stunned. Do you know that girl? That's a problem, Nagran Vagaris said. Father, I'll deal with it myself, Li Peiluo Weeder said. Li Peiluo Weeder understood his father. When he thought it was real trouble. Bring your trusted men and all your weapons to my castle. All weapons? All weapons, Nagran Vagaris said seriously. Nagran Vagaris said solemnly. Also, inform your other brothers to join the battle. Nagran Vagaris divided Edinburgh into 7 parts, and each descendant received a share. This was why he could control the entire city. Although Nagran Vagaris was a vampire, his control over Edinburgh was similar to the Black Hand's family-style operation. Then, the children all called to ask about the situation. Nagran Vagaris told the children the truth. Nagran Vagaris didn't dare to be careless. After all, he had the ability to kill a 2-headed ogre deep in the mountains. Of course, this didn't mean Nagran Vagaris would back down. This was Edinburgh, his home turf. Earl, there's a group of people outside. They say they're your children, Nala El said as she walked in front of Nagran Vagaris. Yes, Li Peiluo is here. Let him in. Nagran Vagaris nodded. Oh, I'll give you a day off. Go back first. Boss, I don't need a day off. That's your problem. You can go, Nagran Vagaris said with an unquestionable tone. Nala El could only turn and leave. Just then, Li Peiluo Weeder walked over with his men. Nala El glanced at Li Peiluo Weeder. She didn't know the relationship between Li Peiluo Weeder and Nagran Vagaris, but they definitely weren't father and son. Nagran Vagaris looked like he was only in his 30s. Li Peiluo Weeder looked to be in his 20s. No matter how she looked at them, they couldn't be father and son. Moreover, if they were father and son, why did this person bring so many people here? Li Peiluo Weeder glanced at Nala. El Nala deliberately slowed down her pace and looked back. Pero Weeder entered Nagran Vagaris' room. At this moment, Nagran Vagaris walked to the door, looked at Nala El outside, and closed the door. Nala El saw Nagran Vagaris' actions and could only continue to leave. But at this moment, another group of people arrived. She was a voluptuous, sexy woman, with her hands in her pockets, walking like a cat and chewing bubblegum. This woman was followed by more than 10 other women. When the woman passed by Nala El, she stopped. Is my father here? Father? You mean Count Vagaris? He's in that room. Nala was even more curious. She had never heard that he had a child before. But today, 2 people actually appeared. Nala watched as the sexy woman brought a group of women into the room. After that, 7 groups of people actually came. Nala had never seen so many people come to Death Valley Castle. It had never been so lively. There were at least 100 people here. In Death Valley Castle, there were usually only Nagran Vagris and Nala Iyer. Nala suspected that something big was about to happen. Nala deliberately slowed down her pace. When she arrived at the castle gate, half an hour had passed. She wanted to see if there would be more people coming. Nala waited at the gate for more than 10 minutes. It seemed like no one else would come, she thought. But at this moment, another car came over. But this time, there weren't many people. There was only a small car. When the car arrived at the castle gate, 3 people got out. She knew these 3 people. No, she didn't know them. To be precise, she had only seen them before. The 3 of them had been here twice before. "Hi, Miss Nala. You're here for the Count?" "Yes, we're here for Nagran Vagris. I'll take you to see the Count." Nala was still worried about not having an excuse to go back. Just then, the 3 people arrived. Nala brought the 3 of them to the door. "Knock, knock, come in." Nala brought the 3 of them into the room. At this moment, more than 100 people were standing around. Among them, the 7 leaders were sitting beside Nagran Vagris. Nala realized that when she came in, the atmosphere changed. The originally slightly noisy room instantly quietened down. Everyone shut their mouths and stared at Ruan Faxben, Lisa, and more. "Nala, didn't I say that today is your business? You can go back first," Nagran Vagris said. Oh, Nala thought they were doing something. Unfortunately, Nagran Vagris chased him away. "You 3 are really bold. You threatened to start a war with me." "Why? Can't find anyone." Nagran Vagris looked down at the 3 uninvited guests, his tone somewhat disdainful. "Do you think you have a right to make us fight?" Ruan Faxben looked at everyone in the room. In the end, his gaze landed on Nagran Vagris. "You think 100 or so people aren't enough?" Nagran Vagris waved his hand. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just then, everyone raised their guns and pointed at Ruan Faxben, Lisa, and more. The 100 or so people present were all those who had undergone vampire conversion rituals. However, their rituals were incomplete, so the vampire bloodline was very thin. Only Nagran Vagris and his 7 children were true vampires. These 100-plus people all knew that they could be considered half of the spiritualists. "Not enough," Ruan Faxben said indifferently. Both Lisa and Moore were ready for a fight. "Looks like you want to die. I'll fulfill your wish." Just then, Nagran Vagris's phone rang. To be precise, the ringtone wasn't his own phone. Li Paluo Weeder had given it to him after snatching it from Xian Li. "Hey, Xian Li." Chun Zhao's voice came over the phone. "Did you forget to call me today?" Chapter 1900. Nagran Vagris listened to the man on the phone muttering to himself. Then he hung up. Chun Zhao saw that the call had been hung up. He dialed Xian Li's number again. "Xian Li, is it inconvenient for you to talk? Are you being held hostage? Is someone beside you?" Chun Zhao started to use his imagination. Nagran Vagris silently hung up the phone again. This time, Chun Zhao didn't call Xian Li. Instead, he called Ruan Faxben. When Ruan Faxben saw the caller ID, a thought suddenly popped up in his head. "I'm done for." In the instant that the call connected, Ruan Faxben could almost feel the flames of anger erupting from the phone. "Ruan, where's Xian Li? What happened to her?" "President, something happened to Xian Li. We're solving the problem now." Ruan Faxben's expression was very ugly. Why didn't Xian Li say anything just now? She can't say anything? Is she seriously injured? Or is she being held hostage? She's injured. She's in the hospital. Her phone was stolen. We're negotiating with them now. Negotiating? Fight. Ruan Faxben could only say honestly. Turn on the locator. Ruan Faxben's expression was somewhat stiff. He turned to look at Lisa and more. Finally, he looked at Nagran Vagris. "Big trouble is coming. My blood family and I are never afraid of trouble," Nagran Vagris said expressionlessly. "You should be afraid. Hand over the murderer, and this will end here." Ruan Faxben's tone became urgent. "Don't even think about it. Nagran Vagris was still determined. "Do it," Ruan Fashabin shouted. "Do it." Nagran Vagris gave the order at this moment. All of Nagran Vagris's blood family members opened fire, but there were no flames bursting out of their guns. A bright red energy ball gathered in Reese's palm. This energy ball was full of destructive energy. "It's useless to use firearms in front of me." To be precise, these lightweight firearms were useless against Lisa. Nowadays, guns filled the cartridge with gunpowder. The firing pin would cause an explosion and push the bullet out. But Lisa could absorb heat from the environment. Therefore, the guns in their hands were equivalent to scrap metal. It wasn't just the heat emitted by the guns in their hands. Even the temperature in the air had dropped. Lisa casually threw the energy ball in her hand. "Dodge!" Nagran Vagris shouted. The energy ball then exploded violently. 4 or 5 vampires were affected and instantly engulfed in flames. Nagran Vagris was instantly engulfed in anger when he saw his kin being killed. A relative threw himself at Reisa. A shockwave burst out from Lisa's hand. The relative was sent flying by the shockwave. Ruan Faxbin and more were still standing behind him. They had no intention of making a move. Lisa could control the situation here by herself. Another vampire was sent flying by the shockwave. However, this didn't stop the other vampires from moving forward. More vampires' dependents surrounded Rissa. Reisa placed her palms on the ground, and the shockwave hit the ground, causing it to collapse instantly. Then, all the vampires around her were sent flying by the shockwave. The room that was originally on the castle tower collapsed because of Reisa's shockwave. Everyone was sent to the lower floor. Nagran Vagris saw that a little girl was so difficult to deal with. He couldn't help but feel a little solemn. However, this wasn't the time for him to retreat. Nagran Vagris personally entered the fray. Nagran Vagris stretched out his arm and pointed at Reisa. A ball of blood seeped out from his arm. A ball of blood shot at Reisa. The blood suddenly spread out and enveloped Reisa. Reisa shouted softly, and a shockwave rippled out from her body. Reisa's thermal shockwave wasn't something that could be released with just her hands. The ball of blood was blasted apart. However, the scattered blood turned back and shot at Reisa again. Reisa wasn't good at dealing with this kind of attack. Her fighting style was to attack, not defend. So, under this concentrated attack, she seemed a little flustered. Reisa gave up defending and let the blood droplets hit her body. At this moment, Reisa pointed her palms at Nagran Vagris. Boom! Nagran Vagris was sent flying by the shockwave. Nagran Vagris didn't expect Reisa to be so difficult to deal with. He actually didn't get the upper hand in the first round. "Reisa, how's it going?" Ruan Faxben asked. Reisa was slightly injured, but it wasn't serious. Ruan Faxben handed Reisa a bottle of medicine. "It's my turn," Morse said, walking up. "Huh?" Nalael walked to the door. Suddenly, she saw flames shoot out of a window on the castle tower. Her heart skipped a beat. What happened? Did something happen? Nalael didn't know what to do. Just as she was hesitating, she suddenly felt a shadow appear behind her. Nalael turned around and saw a strange Asian man standing behind her. When did this man come? "You," Nalael was about to ask. The man ignored Nalael and walked straight into the castle. Wait. Nalael wanted to pull him, but when he stretched out his hand, he grabbed nothing but air. Nalael sped up and ran to him. "Stop right there. Who are you?" Chen Zhao looked down at Nalael Tur. "This is private land," Nalael said seriously. "Really? Whose land?" Chen Zhao didn't stop. "Stop. This is Earl Nagran Vagris's property. He's a big noble." "Really? I'm here for him." Nalael clearly didn't believe him. "Stop or I'll call the police," Nalael threatened, taking out her phone. Chen Zhao reached out and crushed the phone in Nalael's hand. Chen Zhao glanced at Nalael indifferently. "Sorry, I wasn't careful." Nalael stared at him in shock. Chen Zhao clearly didn't have good intentions. She couldn't stop him at all. Chen Zhao walked forward as if there was no one around. Boom! Just then another violent explosion sounded in front of them. Chen Zhao had already walked over with big strides. When Chen Zhao pushed open the door, Everyone's eyes were on him. Nala El saw that someone had died at the scene. Nagran Vagris and the others were in a standoff with Ruan Faxben, Reisa, and more. Nala El didn't understand what had happened. When Ruan Faxben, Reisa, and more saw Chun Zhao, their expressions changed. As expected, he still came. Chapter 1901. Chun Zhao stood up and glanced at Nala. "Miss, it's not suitable for you to appear here. What exactly do you want?" "Nala, I told you not to appear here today. Don't you understand?" "Count now. Leave this place," Nagran Vargas scolded. Nala had no idea what was going on here. Chun Zhao walked up to Ruan and the other two. "Who hurt Xian Li?" The three all lowered their heads. In the end, Ruan was the one who said, "I don't know. Anyway, it was that guy." Nagran Vagris's face was cold. He didn't retort. He couldn't stay out of this anymore. Chun Zhao turned to look at Nagran Vagris. The next moment, Chun Zhao suddenly appeared before Nagran Vagris. Before Nagran Vagris could react, Chun Zhao had already grabbed his neck. His entire body was lifted into the air. Nagran Vagris couldn't fight back at all before Chun Zhao. Bang! Chun Zhao pinched a golden bullet between his fingers. "President, it's him." When Ruan saw the golden bullet between Chun Zhao's fingers, he immediately locked onto Li Peluo Weeder. "Put our father down." All of Nagran Vagris's family members charged at Chun Zhao with a furious roar. Chun Zhao swung his fist, and a dozen family members along the way were instantly turned into ashes. "No!" Nagran Vagris roared. Nagran Vagris suddenly turned into a puddle of blood and escaped from Chun Zhao's hand. Chun Zhao glanced at Nagran Vagris, who'd returned to his original form. By now, Nala was already dumbfounded. What exactly was going on? "Hand over the murderer," Ruan Faxburn said. Ruan knew that after Chun Zhao arrived, things wouldn't end peacefully. He spoke up now, hoping to give Nagran Vagris a way out. "Do you think you can make me yield like this?" Nagran Vagris's attitude was uncharacteristically resolute. Nagran Vagris suddenly reached out and grabbed his shoulder. Then, he tore his left shoulder off with force. Fresh blood gushed out from the wound and gathered into a puddle on the ground. The blood seemed to have a life of its own as it flowed on the ground and seeped into the ground. Then the ground shook heavily. "Guild leader, there seems to be something down there." "I know, I feel it." If Ruan Faxi could feel it, how could Chun Zhao not? At this moment, the ground began to collapse. First, it was the stones and bricks that were originally laid on the ground, and then the buildings on top of them. Everyone kept retreating, and the ground collapsed more and more, almost covering half of the castle. The pit was bottomless, like a bottomless abyss. At this moment, a terrifying suction force suddenly came from the bottomless abyss. Everyone began to be uncontrollably sucked into the bottomless abyss. Even Nagran Vagris, the instigator, could not resist this attraction. Only Chun Zhao stood where he was without moving, watching them get sucked into the bottomless abyss one by one. President, Ruan Faxi originally wanted to ask Chun Zhao for help. In the end, Chun Zhao ignored him. He just stood there and watched the three of them get sucked down. He immediately understood that Chun Zhao was angry at the three of them. Only when everyone was sucked into the bottomless abyss did Chun Zhao jump in. There was a deep pool at the bottom of the abyss. It was about a few hundred meters from ground. The suction force lasted for a few seconds, and then it turned into an upward current. It was as if something was breathing down there, moving up and down continuously. Nagran Vagris had grabbed Nala Iyer, which was why she'd been able to survive when she fell into the pool. Of course, it was also fortunate that there were intermittent upward currents. Only then did the falling slow down. Nagran Vagris picked up the drowning Nala El and turned to look in another direction. He saw Ruan Faxi, Lisa, and more crazily swimming to the shore. Hurry to the shore. Nagran Vagris had a bad feeling. There were many holes around the abyss. The airflow was flowing through these holes. At that moment, the pool suddenly exploded and a huge snake head drilled out of the pool. The snake's body above the water was dozens of meters long. Its head was as big as a plane's. The moment the bloody mouth broke the surface of the water, more than a dozen members of the clan were swallowed into its mouth. Nala Iyer had never seen something like this before. Even the others hadn't seen it before, and Nagran Vagris knew what was down there. But it was also his first time seeing this snake. Whoosh! Suddenly, a beam of light pierced down from above. The beam of light passed through the serpent's mouth, and then the serpent, along with its huge body, exploded. The broken parts of the snake's body sank into the deep pool. Everyone was shocked. They stared at Chun Zhao, who was floating above the pool, in disbelief. Just then, snakeheads started burrowing out of the surrounding caves. Every head was the same as the one Chun Zhao had killed earlier. There were at least 100 of them. They all opened their bloody mouths and hissed at Chun Zhao. 100-headed snake? All the heads of the snakes stared at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao looked at them from afar. Chun Zhao didn't expect such a monster to be hiding here. Neither side immediately launched an attack. They were evaluating each other's strength. From this, it could be seen that the snake wasn't a mindless monster. Once it thought it could defeat Chun Zhao, it would attack immediately. The snake was very strong, but Chun Zhao could handle it in his normal state. Nagran Vagris stared at both sides. He was the only one who knew the snake's background. He became a vampire largely because of the 100-headed serpent. When he undid the seal on the 100-headed serpent, he had the thought that everyone would die together. But after releasing it, he regretted it. He felt that he'd been too rash. Finally, the 100-headed snake attacked Chun Zhao. Plop! A huge snake head was chopped off and fell into the pool. When the head landed, it immediately created a huge wave. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This man could actually chop off a snake's head in an instant against such a monster? Nagran Vagris was even more shocked. Where did this man come from? Chapter 1902. Nagran Vagris knew the origin of the 100-headed serpent. The 100-headed serpent had once wreaked havoc in England before the first year of the Common Era. At that time, England had been called the Island of Monsters. No one in Europe dared to cross the English Channel, much less land in England. Legend had it that giants and monsters lived there. It was even used as a place of exile for Europe. The French used it as a place of exile for criminals. However, most criminals couldn't even cross the English Channel and ended up in fish stomachs. It wasn't until explorers truly landed there that they realized that the people living there were indeed savages. The deeper they explored, the more they realized how terrifying this place was. However, no matter how terrifying a place was, it couldn't stop humans' desires. More and more humans occupied the island of monsters. The 100-headed serpent was the king of monsters. It breathed fog and covered a large area, protecting its people. At the same time, it saw humans as food. The war between humans and monsters finally unfolded. The result was obvious. Humans won. The 100-headed serpent led its monster army and hid in the forests of Scotland. However, humans didn't stop because of this. Humans continued to expand toward all lands that were suitable for living. The war started again. It was still the humans who emerged victorious. This time, the 100-headed serpent's monster army was almost completely wiped out. The rest were also scattered and fled deeper into the forest. The 100-headed serpent was sealed. Humans built a castle on the seal of the 100-headed serpent. It was Death Valley Castle. Of course, Death Valley Castle wasn't called that back then. Vagris was the oldest noble family in England. This was because his family had always guarded this castle and shouldered the responsibility of watching over it. In the end, people had even forgotten the meaning of this family's existence. However, the people in his family still kept their previous vows. This was also why Nagran Vagris was shocked by Chun Zhao, a human who could fight against the king of monsters. In the ancient documents kept by the Vagris family, there were records of the two wars between humans and the king of monsters. Many of the documents described how terrifying the king of monsters was. In fact, during the Second War, rather than defeating the king of monsters, it was more accurate to say that he had schemed against it. The so-called seal was actually to make it sleep. While it was sleeping, he built a castle on top of its head. At that time, There was no existence in Europe that could rival the king of monsters. At that time, the spiritual world in Europe was far less prosperous and active than it was today. The 100 heads of the 100-headed snake attacked Chun Zhao wildly. Chun Zhao punched one after another, continuously shattering the snake's heads. However, even if its head was chopped off or shattered, it could still regrow in the blink of an eye. It had an almost inexhaustible life force. Flesh and blood rained down from the sky. Everyone was amazed by this earth-shattering battle. Neither side seemed to be able to do anything to the other. Nagran Vagris looked at Ruan Fassbender, Lisa, and more. The three of them huddled together, seemingly not worried about the outcome at all, as if they were discussing something. F.A. Shiban explained to the president later, "Why do I have to explain? Why don't you go?" "Because you're the oldest and we're all underage. You're not embarrassed to ask us to face the president?" "Why? I'm old. You should think about me too. Anyway, the president spoils you kids a lot. You're more suitable than me." "I don't want to." Lisa rejected immediately. "The president almost killed me back then." "Then let's play rock, paper, scissors," Ruan Fassbender said. "Whoever said it has to explain." "Sure," Mo Air agreed. Moore is still too young. He didn't see Lisa and Ruan Fassbender exchange glances. In the end, they left without saying anything. Moore had a long face. "How about 2 out of 3? What do you think?" While they were chatting casually, Nagran Vagris and his family members were frightened out of their wits. The battle between Chun Zhao and the 100-headed snake was too intense. It was completely beyond their imagination. Chun Zhao was scary, but the 100-headed snake was even scarier. No matter how many heads Chun Zhao killed, the 100-headed snake could regrow instantly. To Nagran Vagris, if this continued, Chun Zhao would run out of energy sooner or later. By then, the situation would definitely be reversed. Nagran Vagris didn't know whether he wanted Chun Zhao to win or the 100-headed snake to win. Chun Zhao didn't believe that the 100-headed snake could always grow heads. There was no such thing as immortality in the world. Chun Zhao had only killed 1,000 heads of the 100-headed snake. Basically, he'd cut off 10 heads on each neck. But the 100-headed snake still didn't run out of energy. The heads continued to grow. Chun Zhao was getting tired of it. He suddenly sped up and charged into the mouth of a head. To Nagran Vagris, it looked like Chun Zhao was swallowed by the head. Chun Zhao forcefully charged into the 100-headed snake's esophagus. Chun Zhao wanted to see what the 100-headed snake's body looked like. But halfway through, Chun Zhao realized that the 100-headed snake's body started turning into rock. More accurately, the body of a snake grew out of the rock. All the snake's bodies were connected to a rock that was hundreds of meters wide. The 100-headed snake should have been sealed here in ancient times. Could have been sealed for too long and turned into a fossil? Chun Zhao broke out of the snake's stomach. Of course, this was just Chun Zhao's imagination running wild. As long as a creature was still alive, its cells would be active. It wouldn't turn into a fossil for no reason. By then, the other snake heads had retracted too. They attacked Chun Zhao even more crazily. Right now, Chun Zhao was more interested in the rock that had fused with the 100-headed snake. He wasn't interested in fighting the 100-headed snake anymore. Chun Zhao took out his black trident and stabbed it at the place where the 100-headed snake and the rock were connected. The 100-headed snake's body started shrinking rapidly. As expected, the black trident had never disappointed Chun Zhao when it came to killing creatures with strong recovery abilities. Chun Zhao grabbed the rock that weighed hundreds of thousands of tons and put it away. He would study it later. Chun Zhao walked out of the cave. He glanced at Ruan Faxbin, Risa, and more. Then his gaze fell on Nagran Vagris and his kin. "President, the culprit is already dead. I think it's about time. They've been punished." Ruan Faxbin kicked the corpse in front of him. It was Lepero Weeder's body. Chapter 1903. Chun Zhao looked at them and then at the corpses on the ground. Without saying anything, he flew out of the pit. Dozens of people stared at each other. Chun Zhao knew that Ruan Faisai wanted him to let these people go. Chun Zhao was just using this as an excuse. He didn't kill them all, But this didn't mean that Chun Zhao could calm down. Li Peiluo Weeder had sacrificed himself. His act of self-sacrifice in order to protect his compatriots might seem noble to them. But it didn't mean that Chun Zhao would pity him. He was the one who had caused all of this. Of course he should be punished. Ruan Faxaban glanced at Nagrand Vagris. Take us out. Don't tell me there's no way out. Nagrand Vagris silently led the way and didn't say anything along the way. His relatives followed behind him. They were also quiet. Ruan Faisai, Lisa, and more didn't care about their feelings. They were still chatting happily. They also knew that their relationship with Nagrand Vagris wasn't the same as before. In the past, they weren't that good, but they could at least pretend to be polite. But now, they didn't even pretend to be polite anymore. Both sides had extremely bad impressions of each other. Nagrand Vagris was just angry, but didn't dare to say anything. He watched as his own son sacrificed himself to protect the entire clan. This was a huge blow to him, but he couldn't do anything. The power that Chun Zhao had displayed was too terrifying. No wonder Ruan and the others had said that the person behind them could talk to 23rd Blood Mary and Zhang Tianyi on equal terms. When Ruan and the others returned to the hospital, they saw Chun Zhao standing outside Xian Li's room, waiting for them. "President, did you go see Xian Li?" "No," Chun Zhao said. "Don't tell her that I didn't interfere. Just pretend that I never came and that I don't know anything." "Why do that? If she knows that I interfered, she'll only feel more defeated." "Okay, I understand." Ruan Faxburn handed Chun Zhao a ring. This was a magic tool that he'd made. He'd just gotten it from Nagrand Vagris. "Okay, I'm going back." "Ah, President, you're going back just like that? What else? What do you want from me? Punish you?" The expressions of the three of them were unnatural. Risa and more silently cursed Ruan Faxi for being a busybody. Not really. Ruan Faxburn's expression was a little stiff. "It's okay. Everyone has inconveniences in the outside world. I can understand." Thank you, President." The three were overjoyed. "All the debts will be settled after we return. I won't punish you for now." In the next moment, the three of them fell into despair. After saying a few words to the three, Chun Zhao turned and left. As soon as Chun Zhao left, Kalon opened the door. "Mr. Farspin, Lisa Moore, you're back? Who are you talking to?" "It's nothing. How is Xian Li doing?" "He's just a little depressed. Everything else is fine. His injuries haven't worsened." Chun Zhao returned to Moon Villa. It was only 3 in the morning in Los Angeles. Chun Zhao realized that Yanghua and Lily were still awake. In the front yard, Yanghua and Lily suddenly saw Chun Zhao descend from the sky. They all jumped in fright, wondering who it was. "You're still awake?" Chun Zhao looked at them. "You're awake too. Where did you go?" Yanghua drank a mouthful of beer. "Would you believe me if I told you I went to England? It's more than 8,000 kilometers from here." Yanghua's tone clearly indicated that he didn't believe Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao shrugged. Unless he flew with him, Yanghua wouldn't believe him. "Oh, do you know what this is?" Chun Zhao took out a piece of stone the size of a finger. At first, Yanghua thought it was a normal stone. However, after turning it over and over in his hand, he discovered that this finger-sized stone carried a special aura. It contained some kind of energy, but he couldn't tell what it was. "Where did you get this?" Yanghua asked. "I picked it up. Can I send it back to Dragon Tiger Mountain? Perhaps the elders of Mount Longhu will be able to tell." "Sure, take it." Yanghua didn't expect Chun Zhao to be so easy to talk to. Just then, the butler's system suddenly sounded an alarm. "Master, 2 unidentified people are approaching Mingyue Villa." With that, the butler system projected a surveillance image on the wall. Lily and Yanghua stood up abruptly. "It's them. You're the 2 of them." "Yes, it's them," Lily said without hesitation. Mingyue Villa didn't have a front door. There were only a few mechanical blocks. If no one would have stopped them, they couldn't stop them. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't plan on stopping them. "Chun Zhao, what do we do?" "Fight. What's there to hesitate about?" "Are you sure? These 2 people are quite strong. Don't you have confidence in me? They're not weak, after all." Chun Zhao didn't refute Yanghua's doubts. By then, Beast and Spirit Fox had arrived at Mingyue Villa in the front yard. With the holy spear in his hand, Beast glanced at Chun Zhao, who was lying on the bench with his legs crossed. He then shifted his gaze to Lily and Yanghua. At this moment, Yanghua and Lily were ready for battle. Beast and Spirit Fox saw that Chun Zhao was still sitting there without moving. They thought that Chun Zhao didn't plan on interfering. If Chun Zhao didn't interfere, it would save them a lot of trouble. Chun Zhao had been lying down lazily, but when he saw the spear in Beast's hand, he raised an eyebrow and stood up. "Let me see that thing." Chun Zhao curled his finger. Chun Zhao actually really wanted to borrow it to take a look. But to Beast and Spirit Fox, it sounded like Chun Zhao was provoking them. Without hesitation, Beast raised the spear and pointed it at Chun Zhao. "If you want to stop God's will, you should accept God's punishment." Chun Zhao listened to Beast's tone. Why did it sound like a madman who'd been brainwashed by religion? "I want to ask, how do you want to punish me?" "With a holy spear, of course." Beast raised the spear and shot it at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao raised his palm and blocked the spear's trajectory. But just then, Chun Zhao's palm was pierced. Chapter 1904. Everyone was stunned, including Chun Zhao. What was this? It could actually hurt him. After piercing through Chun Zhao's palm, Beast waved his hand. Beast waved his hand. Chun Zhao felt a suction force appear on the holy spear that had pierced through his hand. It was about to leave his hand. Chun Zhao grabbed the holy spear in his hand. The spear kept vibrating in Chun Zhao's hand, fighting against Chun Zhao's power. "Come back!" Beast roared. The spear resisted even more fiercely. Chun Zhao looked at his pierced right palm. His right palm recovered very slowly. It was almost as fast as a normal person. In the wound, there was a power that was organizing his own immortal power to heal the wound. Chun Zhao channeled more immortal power. If the power didn't force the wound out, it wouldn't heal at all. "Get out." Chun Zhao tried his best to force the power out of the wound. The power wasn't weak indeed, but Chun Zhao's body was his home field, after all. How could Chun Zhao lose to an ownerless power in his home field? A black ball of energy shot out from the wound on Chun Zhao's palm. This massive energy was enormous. After hovering in the air for a while, it suddenly charged at the spear. After Chun Zhao forced the black ball of energy out of the wound, it healed immediately. At the same time, the spear resisted even more fiercely. It also emitted a scorching heat. If a normal person held it, they would probably fall out in the blink of an eye. Giant spirit transformation, dark assimilation, body double, all techniques returned to one. Chun Zhao entered his complete form. Chun Zhao had already put on the ring that hid his aura. So, Chun Zhao only looked like his form had changed, but his aura wasn't leaked. Beast and Spirit Fox were very anxious. This had never happened before. They couldn't retrieve the spear. This had never happened before. By now, the spear had turned crimson in Chun Zhao's hand. It was like a red-hot soldering iron, but Chun Zhao still held it tightly. The spear started growing bigger and heavier. Chun Zhao didn't hold back anymore. He increased his grip on the spear to the maximum. The part of the spear that he held started cracking. Beast and Spirit Fox's expressions changed drastically when they saw this. They attacked Chun Zhao directly. Chun Zhao lifted his foot and the beast was kicked into the air. He then raised his right arm and aimed it at the beast. A white light shot out. When the wild beast landed on the ground, it was already charred. It couldn't be any more dead. The beast's corpse released a black energy that returned to the sacred spear. The Spirit Fox held two swords and slashed at Chun Zhao's thigh. However, the Spirit Fox's twin swords were broken. Chun Zhao lifted his foot and stomped down. The Spirit Fox was also crushed into meat paste. Yang's expression was unnatural, and Lei covered her mouth. The two people who had been chasing them were actually defeated and killed by Chun Zhao, just like that. The entire process was too easy and casual. It was so casual that they couldn't believe it. The Spirit Fox's corpse also released a wave of black energy and returned to the sacred spear. Chun Zhao focused more on the holy spear in his hand. The power of this weapon was unparalleled. He couldn't even control it. "If you continue to cause trouble, I'll destroy you." By now, Chun Zhao had gone all out. Rainbow halos appeared above his head. Yangwu raised an eyebrow. He couldn't sense Chen Zhao's aura. He couldn't feel Chen Zhao's aura, but he could still feel it when Chen Zhao used force. Chen Zhao's body was enveloped by the tremendous force of the world. Once Chen Zhao used the force of the world, the sacred spear resisted even more fiercely. Chen Zhao's power was incompatible with the sacred spear's own power. They were like fire and water. The sacred spear had already turned crimson. Even Chen Zhao's fist, which was holding the spear, had turned red. Crack! A piece of his hand had already cracked. Cracks also started spreading from the broken part. Just then, Chen Zhao's right hand also grabbed the sacred spear. The sacred spear started to bend and change shape. Stop! Stop! Just then, the sacred spear suddenly made a sound. The sound was filled with panic and impatience. Yanghua and Lei Li both looked at Chen Zhao and the sacred spear in shock. Who are you? Chen Zhao didn't retract his power. He still used the same strength to bend the sacred spear. If Chen Zhao increased his strength by 10%, he could completely break the sacred spear. Tagoya Abbey. Chen Zhao turned his head and looked at Yanghua. Have you heard of this name? No. Yanghua also didn't know. Tagoya, the ruler of the old days, Lei Li said. He's the famous exploder in the Cthulhu mythos. He symbolizes fire and is a third-tier existence in the Cthulhu mythos. Yanghua looked at Lei Li in surprise, because he knew that Lei Li hadn't come into contact with the spiritual world. He shouldn't be too familiar with the matters of the spirit world. How did she know this name? Lei Li, how do you know? Yanghua asked. I'm the author of the Cthulhu mythos, Lei Li said. I've already published 2 books related to the Cthulhu mythos. Why are you hunting her? Chen Zhao asked. Because she's a snitch. Because she's a snitch, Tagoya Abbey said. Katujiya Abbey said, what she wrote is leaking our plans. Chen Zhao and Yanghua exchanged glances. Then Chen Zhao asked, what plan? I don't know. You won't be scared if I don't teach you a lesson, right? Chen Zhao increased his strength. The Holy Lance's arc was already huge. It looked like it was about to break. I really don't know. My mission is to kill all the snitches. Who gave you the mission? I don't know. You're too perfunctory. Chen Zhao sounded displeased. It must be my superiors. I submit to them. They can communicate with me mentally, but I can't read their thoughts. Then tell me your plan. What are you going to do? At first, I'd attach myself to a human body, but I realized that a human body couldn't sustain my power, so I had my believer make this gun. Then I attached myself to this gun and started looking for snitches like this woman. In 1,000 years, I've been in the hands of many humans and killed one snitch after another. 1,000 years? You've existed in this world for 1,000 years? 1,000 years is just an instant to me. My time is far beyond what you humans can imagine. The Cthulhu mythos only appeared in the last century, right? Chen Zhao asked, confused. No, the Cthulhu mythos only became famous in the last century. Actually, the original author, Howard Philip Lovecraft, wrote it after consulting many ancient documents. Rumor has it that Howard Philip Lovecraft was influenced by something unspeakable. 9 Heaven's Divine King. Chapter 1905. What's your original body like? Chen Zhao was curious. If I destroy the spear, will you come out? Tagoya Abbey fell silent. The great old ones can't appear in the modern world, Lei Li said. At least not in the setting. Chen Zhao could feel the mysterious murderous intent from the spear. Clearly, Lei Li had hit Katugiya Abbey's sore spot. What if it appears in the modern world? Chen Zhao asked. Obliterate, Lei Li said. The murderous intent on the spear intensified. So if I destroy the spear, this guy will lose his protection and be obliterated? Yanghua looked at Lei Li in confusion. How do you know? I just know. It seems like the setting should be like this. Lei Li was also confused. Just then, Samuel jumped onto Chen Zhao's shoulder. This guy is the god of fire element among the unusual gods. Chen Zhao was surprised. He's an unusual god? Like the unusual gods I've met before? Yes, but he's just a bit stronger. Then why can those from the past appear in their original bodies, but this guy can't? Just like how we demons from hell can appear in the modern world, but it's not an absolute restriction. In fact, only the great lords will receive absolute punishment. Those below that will at most be suppressed. The unusual gods also come from hell? No, they come from another world, Samuel said disapprovingly. They think they're strong and want to take over hell. In the end, they're all kept in hell and treated as pigs by us. But I have to admit that they taste really good. Yang Guo and Lily couldn't understand the conversation between Chun Zhao and Samuel. Chun Zhao's language was already hard to understand, while Samuel was meowing. But they could clearly tell that Chun Zhao was talking to the little kitten. So, do you know his intentions? It's nothing more than these ancient gods wanting to develop some believers or search for some possibility of descending. However, some prophets learned of their existence in advance, and then leaked their information, and even their plans. This guy called Kutagia Abbey, to put it bluntly, is an assassin sent by the ancient gods. She's a prophet? Chun Zhao glanced at Lily. A complete world will always have all kinds of rules. However, no matter how complete a world is, there will always be some loopholes in the rules. Prophets exist to make up for these loopholes. It's just like computer repair software. It's not a big deal. There are thousands of prophets in the world, all kinds of prophets, and all kinds of loopholes. If all the otherworldling gods descend, won't Earth be in danger? What danger? Your current strength is more than enough to deal with it. The most powerful otherworldly god will never descend, just like how the demon king of hell will never descend. Even if you don't do anything, the otherworldly gods can't rule the world. Samuel landed on the spear. Give this to me. I don't have this breed in my ranch. Kutagoya Abbey couldn't understand their conversation. However, he could clearly feel a strong sense of malice. How are you going to get it back? By mail? No need. Use all your strength to throw him into space. I'll retrieve him myself, Samuel said. Thrown into outer space. Are you serious? It's too difficult to use my real body's power in a modern world, but I can leave it. Fine. Chun Zhao gripped the spear tightly. What are you doing? What are you going to do to me? Kutagoya Abbey screamed in fear. He seemed to have sensed something. Chun Zhao took 2 steps back with the spear. Then he sprinted. The airflow caused by Chun Zhao's sprinting made Yang Guo and Lily lose their balance. The airflow was too strong. After sprinting more than 10 meters, Chun Zhao increased his strength to the maximum. The spear flew out of his hand in an instant. Bang! The spear broke through 100 times the speed of sound and pierced through the clouds onto the night sky. It was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it was tens of thousands of meters in the sky. Chun Zhao had thrown it with tens of millions of tons of force. The speed was unimaginable. No aircraft in the world could compare to this speed. Yang Guo and Lily's mouths were agape as they watched the long spear disappear into the night. In 2 minutes, it had surpassed the International Space Station. In 3 minutes, it had left low Earth orbit. With Chun Zhao's strength, the spear also disappeared after leaving low Earth orbit. In the end, it disappeared into the void. Perhaps a human device had found the spear. But because the spear had gone too fast, there was no time to monitor it. How can you give it up so easily? That spear should be a powerful weapon, right? Yang Guo looked at Chun Zhao, confused. I have something better, Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. Why do I need the spear? You can give it to me even if you don't want it. I'm happy to accept it. Then go get it. Yang Guo was speechless. If the spear was on Dragon Tiger Mountain, it could probably be their trump card. Okay, Chun Zhao said. You're not a threat anymore. You can leave now. That's not nice of you. Why are you in such a hurry to chase away guests? You too are troublemakers. If I don't chase you away, would I keep you for New Year? But it's 3 in the morning. Then leave tomorrow morning. Oh, don't forget our bet. In half a year, you have to come whenever I call you. Chun Zhao hadn't forgotten their bet. Thinking of it, Yang Guo felt a toothache. Why was he so stupid back then? Why did he bet with Chun Zhao? In the end, he'd fallen into a trap himself. He wanted to go back on his word, but when he thought of Chun Zhao's terrifying power, he gave up on the idea. If Chun Zhao could shoot a spear into outer space, he could probably shoot people into outer space too. Just think about what would happen if he angered Chun Zhao. If Chun Zhao threw himself into outer space, it would feel scarily good. Then, the two returned to their rooms to pack. In the morning, the two of them carried their luggage and left. Yang kept complaining that Chun Zhao didn't know how to treat guests. On the other hand, Chun Zhao completely treated them as jinxes. Chun, why did Lily and Yang leave? They left if there's nothing else. Otherwise, how long do you think they should stay here? Okay, they don't look like bad people. They're not bad, but they're very troublesome. Chapter 1906. Boss. Portia was here for breakfast again. Take care of the house, Chun Zhao said. I have something to do in the morning. Chun, where are you going in the morning? West, and the others are going to Africa, Chun Zhao said. I'm taking them to the airport. When Chun Zhao arrived at the headquarters, the luggage of 20 to 30 people filled up 2 trucks. There was no one in Chun Zhao's MPV. It was filled with luggage. Chun Zhao increasingly felt that he should get a private plane. West sat in the front passenger seat. President, I heard something happened to Xin Li in Edinburgh? Yes, something happened. Chun Zhao nodded. I'll pretend that I don't know. I don't want to hurt her confidence. Chun Zhao also understood that it was impossible for someone to be completely fine outside. Moreover, there was a certain degree of danger in the spirit world. You couldn't blame Ruan Faxburn, Rissa, and more. After all, they weren't real nannies and bodyguards. They couldn't watch Xin Li all the time. If Xin Li was called back because of something like this, Xin Li would probably be traumatized for the rest of her life. Is there any news from the government? Not at the moment. West shook his head. This matter might not fall on us. Any news from the psionic team? No, they've been very obedient recently. They're just developing themselves quietly. Developing? Expanding? Chun Zhao and West had talked about the development of the supernatural organization. In the end, they decided that expanding wasn't a good choice. If there were too many people, there would be conflicts between factions. Most people in the organization didn't like to play politics. Even Chun Zhao didn't understand politics. So, rather than being disloyal when there were too many people, it was better to take the path of fewer people. Having more people was never a problem. Chun Zhao and West hoped that there were more people. The more people there were, the messier it would be. The more people there were, the easier it would be for them to sneak in. Chun Zhao sent them to the airport. He saw Yang Guo and Lily. Looking at their big and small bags, they seemed to be going far away. Yang, where are you going? Back home, Yang was said unhappily. Back home? For what? What do you mean? Do I need your permission to go back home? What do you think? Chun Zhao smiled at Yang Guo. Yang Guo's face kept twitching. I'll send Lei Li to Mount Longhu, Yang was said after adjusting his tone. She can go to China, but you can't, at least not for the next 6 months. Why? Although I lost the bet to you, I didn't sell myself. No, you did sell yourself. Chun Zhao shook his head. It's not safe for a woman to go to a strange place. Huaxia is the safest place in the world. Why would it be unsafe? It's not like we're sending her to some battlefield. I'll go back to Los Angeles soon. If you don't come back, I can still go to Dragon Tiger Mountain to catch you, Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. You're not allowed to go. How can you be like this? Do you believe that I can make you run 3 laps around the airport naked? Just trust me, okay. Not good. Yang Guo felt a wave of helplessness. Why was he so unlucky? He had just left Chun Zhao's place in the morning, and now he was at the airport again. To be honest, he really wanted to go back to China. As long as he hid in the country, Chun Zhao wouldn't be able to find him no matter how powerful he was. Chun Zhao took out his phone and called Yang Guo. In the end, there was no response. Wow, you even changed your phone number and you're not planning to run away? Chun Zhao glared at Yang Guo with a dark expression. This was awkward. Yang Guo twitched his lips. My number is offline because it owes me money. The operator is really bad, so I changed my number. Do you think I'll believe you? I'm serious. Okay, Ms. Lely, go to China alone. Have fun. Chun Zhao put his hand on Yang Guo's shoulder. Lely looked at Yang Guo, who could only nod helplessly. Lely, go. I've already arranged everything in China. My seniors will pick you up at the airport. Don't worry. Lely nodded. Yang Guo wanted to cry, but no tears came out. If he had entered the departure lounge, he wouldn't have run into Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao dragged Yangwa out of the airport and into the car. What's your new phone number? It's the same one. Then why can't I get through to you? Yangwa's face twitched again. Don't you know that phones have a function called the blacklist? What grudge do you have? Why did you put me on the blacklist? Let's not talk about this, okay? Yangwa kept sighing. Why was he so unlucky? Why was he caught by Chun Zhao? Where are you going? Send me to my place, Yangwa said. Yangwa's place wasn't bad. It was a high-end neighborhood. But when he reached his house, Yangwa didn't get out. He kept frowning. What's wrong? There's an uninvited guest in my house. Yangwa was very unhappy. Which house is yours? Chun Zhao asked. That one. Through Yangwa's directions, Chun Zhao realized that there were two people in Yangwa's house. There are two people inside. Are they the uninvited guests? Chun Zhao turned to Yangwa. Do you need me to send them away? No. I don't like them, but they're not enemies. They broke into your house. Aren't they enemies? I don't like them, but I don't want to be enemies with them. Who are they? An organization called the Spiritual Team. Chun Zhao raised an eyebrow. Spiritual Team? Is the person in charge called Vestana? You know them? Yangwa looked at Chun Zhao in surprise. The purpose of the Spiritual Team is to be my enemy, Chun Zhao said. So, they're your enemies? Good thing I didn't join them. Do they want you to join them? A smile appeared on Chun Zhao's face. Seeing Chun Zhao smile, Yangwa had a bad feeling. Please don't ask me to be a spy. I don't have a talent. Since you're so enthusiastic, I'll agree to your request. You can join the Spiritual Team. What? I said I won't join. I'm for Dragon Tiger Mountain. I can't betray my master. It's fine. If old Zhang has any complaints, I'll handle it for you. Go in peace. You don't have a choice, Chun Zhao said coldly. Don't worry about being a spy. If there's any news, remember to tell me. You have my number. You can get out now. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.